News Bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Monday, the 5th of August, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Two young men lost their lives under tragic circumstances after a night out with a group of friends ended when two of them fell to their deaths in the pickup in which they were traveling round off the highway and plunged into the Superior River in San Fernando. The Hunters Search and Rescue Team discovered the bodies of businessmen Sachin Tilagdari of Clark Road, Pinal, and Ryan Ramnanan of Tulsa Tree, San Francisco, around 2:38 p.m. Both men were already dead. Indian industrialist and investor Naveen Jindal will not bid for the Petro-Trin refinery. He revealed this letter to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley on July 26th. Dr. Rowley read excerpts from the letter Jindal sent to him when he swore in the new executive of the PNM Diego Martin West constituency. Part of the letter from Jindal to Rowley read, "It is with great disappointment, therefore, I must address the reaction led by the official opposition party following our visit to TNT. The character assassination I experienced merely for considering the investment opportunity in the Guaracara refinery was deeply disheartening and discouraging. Jindal also said developments had shaken confidence and his companies had felt compelled to reassess the viability of proceeding with a formal bid for the refinery at this time. Since Jindal's visit on June 17th, the UNC and the Oilfield Workers Trade Union had taken aim at him. The UNC called for Jindal to be disqualified from the bidding process for the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery. The Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago will not be taking any position on the Venezuelan election result at this time, nor will the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, make any pronouncement on it. Speaking at the PNM's function on Friday evening, Dr. Rowley made TNT's stance clear, saying, "There are people in Trinidad who have come from Venezuela because they didn't like the last result, and I'm not surprised, and they're still here. But what we have to be careful with is we do not take advice on people whose agenda and interests are not the same as TNT. We would maintain our position until there's reason to change it." Thousands of people rallied in the streets of Venezuela's capital on Saturday, waving the national flag and singing the national anthem in support of an opposition candidate they believe won last Sunday's presidential election by a landslide. Authorities have declared President Nicolas Maduro the winner of the election, but are yet to produce voting tallies to prove he won. Komal Maharaj, who was missing for 14 days, was reunited with his family on August 2nd. Maharaj, the father of two children, girls ages 5 and 8, and a wife with whom he's been married for 10 years. He went missing on July 19th and was last seen leaving his Felicity home around 11:30 a.m. in his blue Hyundai Ioniq to visit Scotiabank ATM Price Plaza in Chaguanas. Less than 1 hour later, he contacted his wife, saying he was at the ATM and intended to meet briefly with someone he did not identify before returning home by 2 p.m. He never returned, and calls and messages to his phone went unanswered. In a Facebook page statement this Saturday, Maharaj family said, "While the details of the entire ordeal cannot be made public at this time, due to the sensitive nature of the investigation, we can confirm Komal was held captive in Venezuela. Information indicates an undisclosed sum of money was paid for his safe return. The safe return saw Maharaj dropped off at sea close to the TNT Southwestern Peninsula, where he was required to swim to shore." Justice of Appeal Mark Mohammed will be acting in the capacity of Chief Justice over the course of the next week in the absence of Chief Justice Ivo Archie. Justice Mohammed, the fourth most senior appeal court judge after Archie, and Justices of Appeal Nolan Bureau and Prakash Mosai took up acting position yesterday and will be at the helm of the judiciary until August 10th when the Chief Justice returns. An inmate charged with murder has escaped custody while seeking treatment at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in Mount Hope. A statement from the TNT Prison Service said Hakeem Ishmael Mohammed from Wars Trace Maracas St. Joseph escaped from the hospital's accident and emergency department around 3 p.m. on August 4th. The prison service said Mohammed was considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached if seen. Police are still searching for Mohammed up to press time on August 4th. Authorities are seeking information. Anyone with information to contact the nearest police station at 999, prison authorities at 623-7070, or the prison's hotline at 800-7776. TNT sprinter Jareem Richards is into the semi-final of the men's 400-meter race. The .14 ran placed second in Heat 2 of the event in a time of 44.32 seconds on Sunday. American Michael Norman won the event in 40.10 seconds. Another Caribbean runner, Kirani James of Grenada, has secured his seat to secure a place also in the next round. Olympic Games 100-meter 2024 champion American Noah Lyle says he's confident he's on track and has the ability and off-track aura to replace Usain Bolt as the new superstar of men's athletics. Lyle won a time of 9.784 seconds by 0.12 seconds, the smallest gap ever between the first and eighth places in a global men's 100-meter final. He came in first ahead of Jamaica's Kashane Thompson by a mere 0.005 of a second. Lyle became the first man since Bolt in 2015 to win a 100-meter event and a 200-meter world double before completing a golden triple in the 4x100-meter relay. And Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt says the country will reward Thea Lafon-Katzen, who won the country's first Olympic gold medal in the women's triple jump on August 3rd. In a telephone interview with her Prime Minister, Skerritt, he told Lafon-Katzen an announcement was made at an appropriate time of the matter. Prime Minister Skerritt said she's received many messages of congratulations from several quarters around the world, adding her accomplishment has served as a source of inspiration for young people across the region. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming up at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Neighbors, it is Monday, the 5th day of August. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Yep, full casting. We just heard from Dr. Paul Richards. We'll hear from Ruben in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. 24 degrees on both islands. And of course, we do have an adverse weather alert. Yep, that kicked in last evening and will run until 6 p.m. today. All right, so there you go. And that's what our weather is going to be like for today. Pretty much adverse weather, will tell you as it is. Traffic-wise, I have nothing really to tell you about at this time. Morning to you, Pablo.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Wendell.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Richard. And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and listeners all over. It's a rainy morning. Oh, that was a lot of rain.
And yeah, rain came by me around well, 4:45, I think.
Yeah, it's actually a bit gloomy and dark outside. So much so that the dusted on lights are still on. So
yeah. Adverse weather alert started at 11 o'clock last evening. Will run till 6 p.m. today.
Yeah, a lot of people apparently misread it because you know the usual thing. But they say adverse yellow alert and it's hot sun in retail. But of course, it was from 11 p.m. I think a lot of people thought it was 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning all. And a special good morning to, of course, former Member of Parliament and Minister Niall Young Hippolyte. We would have had a charity for him yesterday. Pretty successful one. Could have been better, but of course, you know, it was. So we appreciate all the people who came out yesterday and gave us that support down at Soundforge. Special thanks to the Mayor of Port of Spain for giving us the venue free of charge first. And of course, for all the people who contributed and who performed, including Terry Ann Lyons, Nigel O'Connor and Marissa Kagan, Chris Garcia. You know, I haven't seen or heard from Chris Garcia, and he put on a really good performance last evening. And of course, the DJs, and of course, a pan side. I didn't get their name, but they were all young people, you know. They were absolutely fantastic. And Oscar B, how could I forget Oscar B, who carried the show? You know, it really was a nice evening spent down at Sunford yesterday. And a special thanks to Minister Camille Robinson-Regis. She'll know what I'm thanking her for. And I say...
Morning, Chef.
And I say to the other MPs and ministers who didn't support let's hope that you're never in that position where you need it. You know, I sometimes wonder, you know, about us politicians, you know. I sometimes wonder. Anyway, for all the folks who came and who even bought tickets and didn't come, thanks so much for your support.
Yeah. So how you doing, Paul?
I'm good. How are
Well,
you?
he'll be doing a lot better tomorrow.
I'm doing great, just great today, thank you.
Tomorrow
What do you have planned?
Are you on the show tomorrow, Paul?
I won't be on air. I won't be on air, so I have to wish you happy birthday from today.
Thank you.
What do you have planned?
What are you doing?
I see everybody on your timeline inviting you out, so I mean, I ain't in a position to invite you out.
You invited me out? Didn't check.
But I can't unless I take a flight tonight.
Which is not no problem for you. Which is never a problem for you.
I will tell you the JetBlue flight for today got cancelled. So.
Oh, why?
I have no idea.
That's unusual.
Yeah. We had mechanical problems.
Oh, how's the rain where you are, Paul?
You notice he said we.
Actually, I'm quite happy there's rain because it was quite warm summer. So
yeah, I saw some thunderstorms.
There was rain yesterday afternoon into evening, which I really loved, and rain the day before. But on Friday, it was really not oppressingly hot, but it was hot. It was warm. I was happy for rain Saturday evening and yesterday because it kind of cooled down the place. Makes it really humid though. I was walking in Manhattan yesterday, it was really humid.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't stay very long.
That's the concrete jungle you're walking in, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, this weekend as well was Caribana in Toronto. It was great as usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wendell, what does the mayor have to do with Soundforge? Does he own it or something?
Yeah, he leases that property. He's been leasing that property for a long time now. It's owned by the Port of Spain Corporation.
Oh, that's
all those
great.
properties in the back there, you know that, right? But
so owned by the corporation, or the land is leased from the corporation?
No, the land is leased from the corporation.
Okay. So
all those properties in the back there, including Starlift Spaniard, the TTSPCA, they have a place down in the back there, and a couple other institutions. Where Songforges was originally, where Phase 2 Spaniard was supposed to be.
No, Phase 2 used to be by Woodbrook Place first.
But they're still there.
They're still there?
No, they never moved.
Okay. They're still there.
Phase 2 never moved from One Woodbrook Place. They never moved. So that property has been used by other people, and of course, Songforge now uses it. They've been using it for quite a few years now. You know, they really developed it into a very nice entertainment.
I love Soundforge. I like the open air feel.
Yes.
Because it never gets too hot. So
exactly.
Because of the open air feel, and it's strange enough for a place with a galvanized top or steel top, the acoustics is quite good. Yes. So I've been to quite a few events there, and I actually always enjoy the events at Soundforge. So
okay, well look at that. And it's strange enough for a lot of people who came yesterday. It was the first time they were coming and they didn't even know about the place.
Quite a few stuff there.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Devon Augustine. He came fifth in the men's 100-meter heats. He didn't qualify, but I want to congratulate these young people because it's their first Olympics and they are the future of Olympics at Trinidad and Tobago. So all of them are putting their best foot forward. I see Michelle Lihai made a kind of semi-controversial statement about people who support and people who don't. She has
had her ups and downs with support. So I wasn't surprised with the statement coming from Michelle.
But she's right, though. She is right.
Yeah.
And she really spoke to the bandwagonism of Trinidadians sometimes when they're doing well, everybody, Michelle, and when they don't, and when they're struggling and they're preparing and stuff, little no support.
It fits in with my earlier statement, and morning Ambrose Blah. It fits in with my earlier statement. How could you not support Niall Young Hippolyte at this point in time of his life, where he needs that support? How could you not? You know? Especially when
silently, you don't know. Maybe they bought tickets that didn't attend.
Could be.
I know, Paul. I know exactly who bought what.
I'm trying to placate a little bit and,
Yeah, no.
Out of sight, out of mind in politics, eh?
And that's
one day you're up and your phone ringing. Next day your phone don't ring.
No, I have no problem with that.
Mhm.
I have no problem with nobody taking on people after they go out of politics. That happens. But in this case, someone is ill. Someone needs your help. You know what I mean? Someone who would
You
have
won't say
served the
colleague, if
country.
not friend, but colleague.
Mm.
Anyway, so you saw we would have seen the Olympics kind of heat up a little bit yesterday. To me, it's the most nondescript Olympics I've seen in a number of years. And very controversial. The Jamaicans are up in arms over the rule change that didn't allow, is it Fraser?
Shelley Fraser Price.
Shelley and Fraser, not to enter in a particular area because she didn't take the normal bus and having to withdraw from the women's 100 meter. Of course, congratulations to our Caribbean colleagues who are doing very, very well.
Oh, yes.
St. Lucia got their first gold medal.
Yes.
And other Caribbean countries are doing very well. Well, they're all doing well, relatively proportionally to their sizes. And we were talking some weeks ago about our 70-member squad. Some of them sent 4 and 5 members and getting gold medals.
Yeah. Correct.
So, and of course, the marquee event of most Olympics, the 100 meters happened yesterday.
Yeah,
yes.
boy.
First time in history,
everyone
ran under 10 seconds.
0.12 is the time between first and 8.
Yeah.
And 0.0005 is the time between first and second.
Yes.
Point, you know what? 0.0.
That's not even a wink.
But it's like a forehead. It's a forehead.
Yeah.
He won by a forehead.
Yeah.
The American instead of bumping him out already, as they are wont to do.
That was a good race.
Noah Lyle says he has the on and off track ability and aura to replace Usain Bolt as the new superstar of men's athletics. Americans like to boast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is a very boastful guy.
Yeah, but if Bolt was there, he wasn't gonna make it, bro.
Well, true. And if the Jamaicans were on top of the game,
bro, say thanks.
Yes.
Right? You beat the Jamaican by If Bolt was there, he was really not going to get no gold medal, bro.
Yeah.
Okay? Say thanks. Let's tell Bolt thanks then for retiring.
Yeah, true.
But if he didn't retire, bro, he was not going to have no gold medal.
And tell Kishan thanks too, because Kishan should have stretched and won that race,
That's a breath, That's literally you're breathing in.
Yeah.
That distance, that differential is really a breath,
Yeah.
So that's why they say that stretch, they give it your all and dive to that finish line.
And
a
lot of people are sharing a still picture of Kishan's toes, foot crossing the line first.
Well,
but it's not about your foot.
It's
not about your foot. You have to breast the tape.
Yeah.
It's not about your foot. Otherwise, they'd have put the tape. Otherwise, they'd have put the tape right across down my ankle. You understand? They put it up there for a reason. You have to breast the tape.
Yeah. If your chest had to bust the tape.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Dominica's Tia Lafon Gadsden, who won the island's first Olympic gold. Also St. Lucia.
Yeah.
So the Caribbean is doing quite well. Jamaica is doing.
I think I made a comment. Somebody tell me to elaborate. Of course, I don't have to. I don't need to. But Julian Alfred has to be the most genuinely beautiful female sprinter I've seen. You see a lot of them with nails and fancy hair and makeup and things. That woman is just so naturally beautiful.
And she was gracious, even though the Jamaicans were kind of taking jabs at her. She said, thank you to Jamaica. I spent some time there and it helped me.
Yes. She went to school in Jamaica.
She was very, very gracious. She said, although I hear Jamaicans jabbing me, I want to thank Jamaica because I spent some time at St. Catherine's, I think, at school in St. Catherine's.
Yes.
And she said that helped my career a lot. There's something in that Jamaican water and probably...
There's something in that water.
And that makes sense. Something. Something.
It could just be the smell of it too, God, Lord knows I
it was the smell of it. All the way would it be
Well, I think I have a talent. I think I must have had a talent from smelling it, especially in Amsterdam.
congrats to Jerome Richards. He's into the semi-final of the men's 400-meter race, so we wish him all the best. And also Kirani James of Grenada.
Yes.
That's the good news.
They all ran very well yesterday. I enjoyed looking, but I couldn't see much of it live because of the event. But I looked over and I really enjoyed yesterday. The Caribbean, I think, will do well. You know what's good about this thing, and this might be a controversial statement there, but so be it. That on that podium, you've seen so many people of African descent, regardless of what country they're coming from, representing it.
Well, athletics.
Yeah, it's no, but even
there's some disciplines that as much as people do like to think there may or may not be differences in genetics and giving you an advantage here and there, because it's a controversial eugenic statement, seemingly based on the evidence. I look at the men's 100-meter yesterday. I ain't seen no Caucasians.
No.
So that struck me. You're right. I said,
Yeah. And even
then you look at swimming and you see very few black people.
Yeah. Even in some of the other disciplines, you're seeing a lot of African descendant people rising in some of these other disciplines that we didn't normally compete in.
We'd like to talk about that, but it seems that there's something there.
I talk about it all the time.
Look at Simone Biles. Simone Biles retired, having been the most decorated gymnast. Russians bumping the gun because she ain't taking no drugs and growth hormones. You understand? And she's pregnant.
Yeah.
She beat them pregnant.
Yes, she's pregnant. She competed pregnant. And we only knew that after.
Yeah. Mind your business.
She's on today. She's doing the floor and I believe the beam today.
She's still coming.
Didn't she retire?
After the Olympics, she'll retire.
Okay, it's after. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I said I thought she was done.
What's amazing about her is she made a great stance in last Olympics, so she pulled out on it. Amid so much criticism from people like Bill O'Reilly, who had to eat his crow and said sorry to her because she pulled out loud because for mental health, to maintain her mental health, and came back and beat everybody at Olympics. So it was a good stance for her. You have to know yourself.
I don't know how that short young lady could jump so high.
Pocket rocket.
Oh my Lord!
These people trading since they're 6 and 5 years old.
Yeah.
People look at them and think that they literally start trading at 5 and 6 years old.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know her story. She and her sister were put into foster care at the age of 3 and eventually got adopted by her grandparents.
So good for her. So it's an interesting Olympics. I mean, there's some really interesting anecdotes coming out. You're also the pole vaulter.
That went viral quick.
I didn't want to play the video this morning. It's a little much.
That went viral quick.
Who missed out on goal because his appendage struck the pole. His pole struck the pole.
His pole struck the
pole and fell it down. He was over, but then the pole got in the way.
His pole struck the vault because remember you're using a pole to get up.
No, it's from the crossbar when he's coming back down.
Right, so that they call that the vault, not so?
No, the crossbar.
Okay.
The vault is the pole that you go up on.
Okay.
Anyway, also one time, it's one of the few times that
say it, Paul.
Go ahead.
Being blessed may not help you. I don't know. It's interesting Olympics, but I keep saying, the French are coming into for real criticism for how they're managing this Olympics.
Yes.
Even from the accommodation, from the organization, the rules changing in a minute.
The river.
The opening ceremony, they're getting real since Olympics.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised.
Well, they're doing it their way, of course.
Well, everybody's did it their way, but they're getting relics. We saw the Olympic Committee response it after the games. When it finishing this week?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure they must be looking to make sure that they sanitize the closing ceremony, given what they endured for the opening ceremony. Back at
You
home.
think they care, Paul? I don't know that they care enough to do that. You know?
No, you're right. They don't care. French already care.
They don't care.
Their business. Condolences to the families of two young men.
That's a sad story.
Tilak Dari and Ryan Ramnanan, who were both found, their bodies were found under the pickup, which seemed to have run off into the Superior River. They went with friends on Saturday night, and and the car seemingly went off the road into the river and turned over, and their bodies pulled from the wreckage later on. That's really sad news,
I saw that. And the thing about it is that there were apparently no witnesses. So like they were alone on that stretch of road at that point in time.
And could have been alive for a while.
But aren't there any, I mean, I don't know that area, but aren't there any barriers to, I don't know, prevent?
I don't know the area itself. And
I hope the barrier is not put squares, put at an angle. So if you run off and you hit, you don't hit the barrier head on, but you hit if it's at an angle and just scrape the side and get back on the road. I don't know.
The firefighters had to cut the pickup to get the men out. That's how crushed it was.
Oh.
Wow. So condolences to their families. And really sad news. Komal Maharaj was found alive.
Yeah.
He's missing for 14 years.
He thought he was in Venezuela.
Where's Frank when you need him? Where's Dennis Hall when you need him?
He thought he was in Venezuela but why? Who calls? Anyway, let me question it. But apparently the story read where he called not the police or family, but he called Hunter Search and Rescue to come and get him.
No, that's not what
Is that what I read?
No, not that I know of.
Yes, that's what
I didn't hear that.
That's what I read.
But he asked for a call by a bar. Maybe he called Hunter Search and Rescue, but you're right.
Yes.
Morning, Richard.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I'm not the police.
Yeah, that's what the
Wendell.
report
Anyway,
said.
he went missing 14 days ago. He was last seen leaving his Felicity home at around 11:30 a.m. in his car to visit a Scotiabank ATM. He called his wife saying he was at the ATM and intended to meet someone briefly who he did not identify. He did not return home. People got worried. They called the authorities and the public search began. Let me just state from the start, I was really happy that he was found alive. Let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because, I mean, when people are missing that long, you don't have a lot of hope. So thanks God he's alive and safely returned to his family. But then the story gets curiouser and curiouser, where according to reports, he was kidnapped and taken to Venezuela. An undisclosed sum of money was paid for his safe return. He was dropped off at sea around TNT's southwestern peninsula and was required to swim ashore. Came ashore, asked to use a phone, and somebody could correct me if I'm getting this chronology wrong, and the person in the back recognized him and called the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
They said a sum was paid. Paid to whom? And were the police involved in paying? Because the police don't usually encourage paying of ransom.
Right.
As far as I know. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
So this story is curious to me.
But the fact that he was in Venezuela and they drop him back here, who does that?
I don't know.
The ransom was paid.
The world is a strange place.
He was dropped into the sea.
I
He was
agree.
back
The
here.
world is very strange.
According to
Very
reports, he was
strange
dropped
place.
into the sea and said swim.
What was your birthday yesterday?
It's mine and Cecilia
Tomorrow.
are tomorrow.
You and Cecilia, not so?
Yeah. But Ragoobarsingh is frozen, and that's not in thought.
Yeah.
Mine
Yesterday was Barack Obama's birthday.
Okay.
And
my cousin's birthday is today, Amanda Edwin. Happy birthday, Amanda.
let me tell you what Facebook needs to learn
You
to
have
do.
Edwins in your family?
Yes.
I have Edwins living in Miami here, you know.
Huh?
Yeah.
In the area, in the compound or in the house?
No, not the house.
I don't
But
know.
there, and there,
It's also.
it
It
might be a
sounds so.
family, you know, Richard, coming to think of it.
Facebook needs to learn to turn off notifications when people pass. I got an alert that it was Raymond Chukong's birthday a couple of days ago.
Yeah, they still do it. It still happens. I don't know how they could do it, though.
Facebook needs to deal with that.
Yeah, I get that. I get the alerts from people.
And that's it's just weird. It's just weird, right?
It is weird.
Yeah, and Facebook need to find a way. I guess the thing about it, a lot of accounts stay up because people don't have people's passwords and can't go and disable it. But you can write to Facebook if your family member or loved one has passed and provide proof, and they will disable it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, there must be some way to do that. Anyway, so condolences to these men, and happy that Mr. Maharaj is returned safely. This family said they can't divulge all the details because investigations are at a sensitive stage.
I would imagine. I would imagine.
There's a prison inmate on the run.
So where did I get that story? I got that story from somebody early this morning.
You take the man to Mount Hope for treatment. His name is Hakeem Ishmael Mohammed. The authorities say if you see him, and you see no pictures.
Yeah, I got a picture.
He is to be considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached. You should call the authorities, the police station, the nearest police station at 999, the prison authorities at 623-7070, or the prison's hotline at 800-7776.
I'm sending it now.
It's so easy to escape when you go to the hospital.
Yes, this is not the first time that happened.
Those numbers are for people who see him.
So I just sent you a picture.
But nobody knows what he looks like.
I just sent you all the picture.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, actually, you're right. I did see this picture, but I didn't know it was him. So please be careful. And apparently, it's not that difficult to escape when you go for medical attention from the authorities, including police and prisons, because I'm sure they had police there too. Well, I hope so. Papi.
Sometimes you think that some of these escapes are orchestrated, eh?
By
whoever authority?
The Prime Minister,
You're gone.
We'll open the phone lines, made some quite interesting revelations over the weekend. The first big bomb he dropped is that industrialist and investor Naveen Jindal will not be bidding for the Petroleum refinery. Shades of sandals.
Tell them why.
He said the man sent a letter to the Prime Minister saying, quote, "It is with great disappointment, therefore I must address the reaction led by the official opposition party following our visit. The character assassination I experienced merely for considering the investment opportunity in the Guaracara refinery was deeply disheartening and discouraging. Moreover, the unjust attacks directed at our group, companies, entities that operate independently and are unconnected to legal matters, mischaracterized in the local press and parliament, set a troubling precedent for potential investors planning to visit or invest in Trinidad and Tobago." End quote.
He also went at length to talk about laws and their punishment, their penalties, and that he asked in tongue in cheek, and these things happening here in terms of ammunition and gun crimes and so on. He said, and these things happening here. But when have you heard anybody suffer these consequences? It was interesting. But he also made some jabs internally politics. I mean, for people who in the PNM and who might be aware of what's happening, people who not in the PNM are not aware of what's happening, they probably would not have picked up on it. But at Friday's conference for Dr. Nyan Gadsby Dolly, he made a little jab and he actually ended his speech with it. You understand? Because as soon as he said it, he said, "Great is the PNM," and he ended his speech. I think I sent those clips to you all. And then at the other conference, which is his conference on Saturday, he also made a jab. And again, as I say, if you're not in the PNM, you may not have picked it up.
Is there bacchanal in the PNM?
But it's not bacchanal. You know, PNM don't have bacchanal, right?
Of course they do.
The PNM do have bacchanal that usually goes public.
But I...
Well said, Paul.
I ain't missing them kind of things, right?
Well,
because at Dr. Nan Gasby Dolly conference, he ended, I'll just give you all of that, a little idea of what he said, right? He said that, you know, he has invested in young people and made sure that they come into the parliament and blah, 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 blah. And then he said, I just want to point out to your MP, who is a deputy political leader, that she is there to the Constitution spells out what the post of a deputy political leader is supposed to do, and that is to support the political leader. Great is the PNM, great, that's the end there, right? So that was Friday, right? And then Saturday at his conference, he said, I don't know who organized for the first time for all my councillors to come here and read an obituary for their member of parliament. Him, he's talking about him, right? So he said the councillors were orchestrated to read an obituary for him, right? I hope it wasn't organized by, and he called a name and he ended it there. I shake my head, yes. I say, Lord, Dr. Kidwally.
That's all like bacchanal to you, Paul.
Let me tell you something. Dr. Kidwally don't put water in his mouth to say what he had to say.
You know what I got from it?
Astute, eh?
But I saw some of the clips. I got that he was saying, he said, one of the quotes he said is that ambition is no problem with ambition and hard work. Mm-hmm. But the subtext was, don't let your ambition get away from you.
Yes. Yes.
And I thought about one person.
Yes. Well, at his conference, he called the name.
Really? What name he called?
Yeah, really.
So if he called him, why you can't call the name?
I send the clip for you, brother.
I'm downloading them now. I'm going to play them shortly.
I send the clips for you. Right? You can play both of them very interesting comments. Coming 2 days, one day after another.
Yeah, we could open the phone lines right now. We got some calls coming in. Good morning.
Mm-hmm. Hey, morning.
Morning.
Wendell,
morning.
Everybody, morning. I watch some international news and I'm very much amazed and intrigued with number one, the Secret Service with Donald Trump. Like they put the man to get killed or they set up the man on. So like people abandon the team. Donald Trump, you see the investigation with the Secret Service?
Mr. Patrick, what did you say?
Did you see the investigation of the Secret Service?
If I saw the investigation to the Secret Service, no, I didn't.
Oh,
I saw parts of a Senate or congressional inquiry.
Yes. Something going on, they say that like certain people abandon the scene. Because normally, if a president or a person who wants to go for president going in that area, it have people that go before and from the area. And if
Mr. Patrick, you're going back in time with a story. There's not a recent revelation.
I'm talking about yesterday.
No, the inquiry is ongoing.
All right.
It's an ongoing thing going on right now.
Yeah.
And they wonder which is really went on there. They really try to find out what it is went on. Because you don't want a president. You don't want a president to get as a citizen. Right? No. The Venezuelan election. Certain countries now say that Maduro has to step down. And certain countries say he has to stay. Right? Our Prime Minister says he has not to say about that now. Right? Because of the deal. The gas deal. Right? But with the correct report from that, who really win the election? Nobody knows yet.
But the election committee hasn't released the granular results. They're just saying that Maduro won 51% and Gonzalez won 47 or 47% or something like that. But people are saying they want the granular results.
When
Show
it's
us
that
exactly.
you need to have the granular
And
results.
Harris now,
And,
Harris now, and Donald Trump. And you see the place heated up in the states where a lot of people don't really like so much about Kamala Harris, but people like Kamala Harris. So we see the thing is a mixed view going on in the states right now with that.
All right.
A big
is
mixed
that
view.
what going on?
Andrew Patrick.
Is that what going on in these states right now? Is it?
A mixed view.
I mean,
Yeah. Morning.
What does that mean?
Morning, gentlemen. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling about the gentleman from India who came to invest in Petrotrin.
Mm-hmm.
Accepted
Mr.
us.
Jindal?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Jindal.
Yeah. Right. What happened is, on a number of occasions, the government in power has referred to members of the opposition who had questions to answer. Nothing wrong with that. Likewise, this gentleman has corruption charges pending. He has questions to answer. So why is it wrong for anyone to bring it up in Trinidad that he has corruption charges pending against him? It is nothing like what Stuart with Sanders. Sanders would sure have no corruption charges pending against him. That's a different matter. And so I don't see what is the problem with it, with anybody bringing that up. They have the other investors coming to Trinidad and no one said anything about it. You know why? Because the other investors never had pending charges over charges. So I think we should be fair and be the opposition, be the public, whoever brought up that this gentleman has corruption charges and questions to answer. I personally see nothing wrong with it. And I think fair is fair. Whoever has questions to answer, it should be made public. Okay, gentlemen, have a nice day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Except
Good
that the
morning.
Prime Minister was very careful to point out that Mr. Jindal is part of a larger group. You understand? He's not the owner. He's part of a larger group, a multi-billion-dollar group that were willing to invest. I don't know if you could compare that with an opposition member themselves on charges and in India. I know you could compare that. Because Mr. Jindal is part of the parliament in India, not so? Where Dr. Job always used to say half of them on charges.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah. All right. We do have a call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm seeing two or three children from the Children's Authority Rainbow Rescue. I have been affiliated with them while I was working. You know, I used to make contributions towards the home. And these young men, I used to have one used to come whenever I pull up, and he used to help me bring out this stuff. That is when they were in Junningham Avenue. And when they moved to Maraval, they got a bigger place. And it is so sad. So I pray that they return safely, because I was looking at CNC3 this morning where they were showing where 3 boys went missing. I think it's 2021 or 22, and they all turned up dead because they would have seen things. I don't understand. I mean, next thing you're going to hear, a commissioner inquiry, because they had one I think what they call it, Paul the Sagba report, and nothing constitutionally, nothing was done. So I do pray that they return safely.
Okay.
Right, let me move on. Richard, I want to ask you, when a court orders somebody to pay somebody compensation and they don't pay it, what happens? What redress could the person who was supposed to? Because I heard Dr. Rowley said the UNC haven't paid the legal costs up to yet. Wendell, how is that possible?
The legal costs for what?
For some, remember the UNC always taking PNM to court. They took
You
the
mean with the
PNM
election petitions?
Probably, I'm not sure. But Dr. Rowley said it in his, when he was in Digo Martin, he said, and up to now the UNC ain't pay them, and all you're sleeping on that PNMP. I mean, come on, Wendell, what the hell is
I didn't hear the statement, Ms. Digo
Yes,
Martin.
I listened to it yesterday again. I played it over, and he said that They haven't paid. I mean, so wait, the court could, well, then them two talk show hosts in that radio station and bring to pay Junior Sammy money? Come on. This is crazy. I don't understand, Richard. What could somebody do? Could they go back to court? I'm asking. I don't know. You will answer me after I come off. And I saw where, well, Oli will be shocked with this one. I agree with what Gary Griffith said. I agree with the first part of what he said, and when he spoke about the Venezuelans coming and we are prepared. And now I'm seeing a Venezuelan activist, Sofia Figueroa de Leon, is warning TNT, be prepared, be warned of the Venezuelans, the exodus of Venezuelans to Trinidad. So if they want to sit down and wait till they come, I hope, as Superintendent Alexander used to say, pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to your surroundings. And if they want to wait till they what the hell we Coast Guards be doing? Fitzgerald Hines gave them a boat just the other day. What? So wait, is with this boy, this black it say, come in. Guys, we're going on. Look, all you just see if all you could do all you had to do, because you see this time, it ain't gonna be easy. You'll have a blessed morning.
Thank you.
Any one of you guys have papers?
I have the online versions, so I could share those with you, goodly gentlemen. Just a program note, we have an additional hour starting today from 8 to 9 with different contributors to us. From 8 to 9 today, we have a new hour, an additional hour called Power Conversations. On Mondays and Wednesdays, the host will be Denise Deming, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, the host will be Marsha Walker.
Let me hear that again, sorry.
Sorry. I was looking for Wendell's reaction.
I was reading comments while I was listening.
So on Mondays, we have an additional hour called Power Conversations. And the guest on Mondays and Wednesdays will be Denise Deming, who will have guests. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, the host will be Marsha Walker.
Okay, that's happening in the afternoon drive?
No, from 8 to 9.
8 to 9, Wendell, you're not listening.
Get some Q-tips, Wendell. Get some Q-tips.
8
You mean
to
right
9.
after us?
Let's
Right
go
after
to
us.
In other words.
Okay.
Yeah, in other words.
Right?
Headlines, gentlemen.
all right.
I have
So
the Guardian. I could do the Guardian poll.
let's start with
Right.
the Express. It is Monday, the 5th of August. It's a wonderful month and a wonderful time of the year.
You hear that? Well, you hear that?
What? It's a wonderful month and a wonderful time of the year. What's wrong with
I
that?
agree.
Did you
I
find something?
have two sisters actually this month, one the 10th
Right.
and one the 12th.
So let's start with the Express. Dengue claims a pharmacist.
Mhm.
So one day after he was diagnosed by doctors with the deadly dengue fever, dengue claimed the life of 35-year-old Rakesh Darrell Nanlal, a pharmacist. Condolences to his family. Dream the Dream Richards is in the form of his life. And of course, he has qualified for the next round of his, I think it's the 400 meter. PM warning to outsiders. Dr. Keith Rowley has weighed in on the recent election in Venezuela, saying that outsiders who attempt to forcibly change the government of the South American country. That's an excerpt. Delphi issues cease and desist to whistleblower Parson Potter. I am not a shareholder nor a saboteur. Bodies found in river. The sad news of those two young men who drowned or died in the accident. Mark on Jindal, good riddance. Triathlon really take place amid pollution fears, and Noah Lyle backed up his hype with a superb come-from-behind victory at the Olympics in the 100-meter finals, which was held yesterday. Right, so those are some of the trending stories in your Express, which is a strange front page today, I must add. Go ahead, please, Richard.
All right, the Trinidad and Tobago Gardens today, and of course, today is Monday, August 5th, 2024. And the main headline on the Trinidad and Tobago Garden this morning, death plunge. 2 friends die after lime as pickup crashes into river. So sad news for, family and friends of the deceased. And the main picture is of the accident, and the father of one of the accident victims checks the vehicle in which Sachin Tilakdari and Ryan Ramnanan were found under the Superior River Bridge in San Fernando yesterday. Very sad news for those families and friends. That's a tragic situation. People have to go through things like that to get that call.
Yep.
PM stays neutral on Venezuela election turmoil. Well, we can understand why. But that's it for the front page. No other sub-headlines are just pictures.
The paper's very strange this morning.
Yeah.
Let's go to the news day. PM, by UNC logic, Paria should be closed because of police probe. PM laments no convictions under Firearms Act. Prison inmate charged for murder escapes custody. General Assembly President, UN can help in Venezuela crisis. Rowley, PNM stability, future, my legacy. Wademark, did PM check on Naveen Jindal? 2 die in Superior River crash. 66 murders in July, 3rd highest in Trinidad and Tobago's history.
Wow.
MP wants action on missing people. Tutor warns of teacher shortage in the new school term. Relatives recovered consultant was being held in Venezuela. UTT president to speak at Hindu conference in Guyana. Cops seize weapon, ammunition, drugs in San Fernando. And Trinidad and Tobago commemorates World Breastfeeding Week. NTA names 6 constituency custodians. And judge orders minister reconsider UK man's residency application. It's a strange ruling by that judge.
On the back page of The Guardian, I forgot to see that, was that Richards advances to 400-meter semis, and he won that race. He came second in that race, but so casually.
Yeah, he slowed down.
He slowed down. He looked into the left.
Yeah.
He did look casual about it.
He toyed with them, actually.
Yeah.
And yet still ran at his fastest, I think.
No, that wasn't his fastest. That wasn't his personal best.
It wasn't?
No.
All right.
All right. So,
and that's the headlines for the 3 dailies. Let's get into the results of our morning poll on Friday, where we asked you, do you agree with the sentiment that Trinidadians are being harassed by licensing officers in the execution of their duties? Well, let me just do a fresh on it. You'll know why in a second. Right. Let's see.
Do you think the Prime Minister is about to do a
there we go.
reshuffle?
So we got. All right. So the results are in. 53%. It was tied. That's why I did a fresh. 53% said no. All right.
You so want to encourage a bacchanal PNM.
This morning's poll, gentlemen.
So, based on the fact that the Olympics is in a full swing, has TNT gotten any medals yet?
None.
No.
We're hoping for some still, all right?
We haven't been in a final as yet either, yeah?
Have we? Do you agree with the question I sent to you over the weekend?
Yeah, yes, I have no problem with that.
I have no issue with it, no.
Right.
So our poll, do you think Trinidad and Tobago is investing enough in sport to excel on the international stage? Do you think that Trinidad and Tobago is investing enough in sport to excel on the international stage?
Yes or no?
This morning. So 222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans 866-525-1099. People on the web and the streaming platform, send your votes there. If you're watching us on M&E TV and listening to us on smart devices, you can WhatsApp us at 318-1021.
Boy Bedesi says no. Rena Boodoo Jennings says no. Anthony Franco says no.
There are countries with smaller economies in ours are doing very well this Olympics, eh?
Yeah. No. Ish out in Malik says no. Cascade St. Anne's, no. Please put when you WhatsApp, please put your name. I got another no. Okay. Morning, Dan Raj. Biggie, good morning to you. Sankofa, good morning. Grab some calls. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Vijaya Banwarhanis country.
Yeah, yes or no?
No, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Cut your tail.
Buffet get this, Steve?
Yeah, I'm trying to watch him when he calls.
You got a level buffet there, though.
Yeah.
No, I said.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes or no? No. Listen. I want to find out something. Hello. You hear me?
Yeah, lower the volume of your device and talk to us on the phone.
Yes. I'm trying to do that. I'm not getting you all on live stream at all. I want to find out something. Hello.
All right. I don't know
working on that.
what you're doing.
We are on
Yeah,
all
Paul
the
is working on it
We
right.
are on all. Everything is working this morning.
Yes, I don't know, but I'm not hearing you all on live stream at all this morning. I'm not seeing you
Maybe
all
it's the app he's talking about. I don't know. Maybe Ruben can check that.
Yeah. All right. We'll check that out. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Wherever you have it on it.
UGC, my answer is no.
No. Thank you, Jersey. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Morning,
A
Sydney.
million times no. A
No.
million times no.
All righty. Thank you.
Morning, Cindy. Long time.
Long time in serious. Good morning.
St. Mary's Maruga said no.
All right, St. Mary's Maruga. I don't even know when Keyshawn Walcott is supposed to throw. All right, got some more out here. We did Ish out at Malik. Clinton Batiste says yes. Wayne Joseph in Ontario, Canada says no. Diedrich Peniston says nope. Helen Prescott, no. Julia S. Batiste, no. Royalty Forever, no. Sunil Ram Samaru. One morning to you. Miss Ingrid in Tucson, Arizona, no. Cheryl Henry, no. CJ New York says no. Andre Reno says from Bish, a lot of rain and no to the poll. All right. No problem. Lots of calls. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Zena.
Oh, let's see you a poll. Let's do poll and crossbar. Listen, I want to say no, but that poll need to switch around. They don't say the best, but it's the management teams.
All right. So you're sticking with no.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
We didn't say investing in money alone, you know.
Yeah, not money alone. Good morning, caller.
Happy 6th birthday, Paul. Have a good one tomorrow.
I wish for 60 alone.
Thank you.
How much times he gonna be 60?
10 times. Good morning.
Hey, morning, guys.
Morning,
Hi,
Mrs.
hello,
R.
morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Rich.
Morning, Mrs. R.
Morning, darling. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm all right.
Wendell, take your time. Rain falling. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rena. Good morning, CJ. And good morning, Zena. And my answer is no to the poll.
Thank you. Val says no. All right. Wait, okay. Ian Lee says no. Carol Guevara says no.
But then maybe you could call the Minister of Sport as a guest on them this week.
Yeah, Wendell.
You know, I've never spoken to Shamfa Kojo.
Richard
I've
P.
never
Knight says no.
spoken
Lester
to Shamfa
Krigwell says no.
We exchanged pleasantries once.
But I might say morning, Minister, if in the same space.
We exchanged pleasantries once. Good morning, Minister. Good morning.
Eve out in Sugargorna says no.
We've never had a
Wayne
conversation.
Ramsey says no. All right. Do you think Trinidad and Tobago is investing enough in sport to excel on the international stage? Yes or no?
What
Right.
I can say though, and this is from personal experience too, is that a lot of the young talent that we have, if scouts don't come and find them and take them out of here, they don't stand much of a chance. A lot of the people are, and that's why I agree with Terence Brown's statement above. The island's success has little to do with their investment. Every one of those athletes are in U.S. colleges and universities. Not just U.S. colleges and universities too. They also have up the Caribbean in Jamaica and so on too. A lot of people are going there now, are being taken there on full scholarships.
But Wendell, a lot of those countries, in particular Jamaica, invest enough that they excel enough on the local level that scouts see them.
Yeah, so that's
the other side of it. So even though you may not ascend while you are in the island, you may be on a scholarship. Because the investment is there when you're young, the talent is nurtured and the scouts see them on the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
When
and
there's
a
a
lot
track and
a lot
field,
of Trinidadians leave here on full scholarships because of scouts coming and seeing them.
yeah.
I don't know that we have any facility here that you can progress to that level.
All right. Kenny in Harlem says no. Slick Money Grip says no. When there's track and field in Jamaica, it is sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into our 7 o'clock major news. AV is there.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
2 men fall to their deaths after their vehicle plunges into the Sapero River in San Fernando. A missing man is reunited with his family after ransom is paid for his return. A prison inmate is charged with murder has escaped custody while seeking treatment at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex. The Prime Minister remains neutral on Venezuela political turmoil, and Trinidad and Tobago sprinter Jareem Richards is into the semifinals of the men's 400 meters race. Details in a moment. This is news at 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sindel Bob. Good morning. A night out for a group of friends ended tragically on Sunday after 2 of them fell to their deaths when the pickup they were traveling in ran off the highway and plunged into the Sapero River in San Fernando. The Hunters Search and Rescue Team discovered the bodies of businessman Sachin Tilak Dari of Clark Road, Penal, and Ryan Ramnanan of Tulsa Trace, San Francisco at 2:38 p.m. Both men were already dead. Emergency vehicles parked on the road created traffic congestion for hours as Monrepo firefighters worked to retrieve the bodies from the badly mangled pickup even as the rains came. Reports indicated that Tilak Dari and Ramnanan were among a group of friends who were earlier hanging out along Cipriani Boulevard, Port of Spain on Saturday night. A friend told police he last saw the men when he overtook Tilak Dari's Nissan Navara near the Gasparillo interchange at 3:30 a.m. HSR team captain Valence Rambarat reported that his team started their search for the men after they were contacted by Tilak Dari's family at 9:38 a.m. asking for assistance in locating the men who did not return home nor answer their calls. The families also reported the men missing to the police. The team eventually reached St. Madeleine, where they observed a vehicle overturned in the river between the north and southbound lanes. They climbed down and started to call but got no response. It was then they approached and found the lifeless bodies inside the crushed cabin. Kamal Maharaj, who was missing for 14 days, was reunited with his family on August 2nd. Maharaj is the father of 2 children, girls aged 5 and 8, and a wife who he has been married to for 10 years. 40-year-old Maharaj went missing on July 19th and was last seen leaving his Felicity home around 11:30 a.m. in his blue Hyundai Ioniq to visit the Scotiabank ATM in Price Plaza, Chaguanas. Less than an hour later, he contacted his wife saying he was at the ATM and intended to meet briefly with someone he did not identify before returning home by 2 p.m. However, he never returned and calls and messages to his phone went unanswered. In a Facebook statement on Saturday, Maharaj's family said, quote, while the details of the entire ordeal cannot be made public at this time due to the sensitive nature of the investigation, we can confirm that Kamal was held captive in Venezuela. The family's, end quote. The family's statement said his wife was able to communicate with Maharaj under the watchful eyes of his captors. Maharaj's wife engaged the assistance of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and under the TTPS guidance, Kumal's release was negotiated. A prison inmate charged with murder has escaped custody while seeking treatment at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, Mount Hope. A statement from the TT Prison Service said Hakeem Ishmael Mohammed from Wharf Trace Maracas St. Joseph escaped from the hospital's Accident and Emergency Department around 3 a.m. on August 4th. The prison service said Mohammed was considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached if seen. Police were still searching for Mohammed up to press time on August 4th. The authorities are asking anyone with information to contact the nearest police station at 999, the prison authorities at 623-7070, or the prison's hotline at 800-PRSN, that's 800-7776. The statement said that the prison service would investigate the circumstances of the incident and has engaged the assistance of all the relevant security agencies to locate the escapee as quickly as possible. Indian industrialist and investor Naveen Jindyal will not bid for the Petrotrin refinery. He revealed this in a letter to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley on July 26th. Dr. Rowley read excerpts of the letter that Jindyal sent to him when he swore in the new executive of the PNM's Diego Martin West constituency yesterday. Part of the letter from Jindyal to Dr. Rowley read, quote, "It is with great disappointment, therefore, that I must address the reaction led by the official opposition party following on our visit. The character assassination I experienced merely for considering the investment opportunity in the Guacara refinery was deeply disheartening and discouraging. Moreover, the unjust attacks directed at our groups, companies, entities that operate independently and are unconnected to legal matters mischaracterized in the local press and parliament set a troubling precedent for potential investors planning to invest in Trinidad and Tobago." End quote. Jindyal also raised concerns about the opposition UNC, saying, quote, "From our organization's point of view, these actions by the purported government in waiting raise serious concerns as they represent an element of risk and potential instability that is incompatible with providing a predictable and secure investment climate." End quote. The cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago will not be taking a position on the Venezuela election result, nor will Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley make any pronouncements on it. Speaking at a People's National Movement function on Friday evening, Dr. Rowley made TNT's stance clear. He said that the government has to be careful that it does not advise or take advice from people whose agenda and interests are not the same as TNT. Dr. Rowley added, quote, "We are not without some interest in what goes on in Venezuela, but whatever role we have to play, we'll play it within the context of our understanding of and confirmation of the rules and regulations that govern people's internal elections." End quote. Thousands of people rallied in the streets of Venezuela's capital on Saturday, waving the national flag and singing the national anthem in support of an opposition candidate they believe won last Saturday's or Sunday's presidential election by a landslide. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Trinidad and Tobago sprinter Jareem Richards is into the semifinals of the men's 400 meters race. The Point Fortin-born runner placed second in Heat 2 of the event in a time of 44.32 seconds on Sunday. American Michael Norman won the event in 44.10 seconds. Another Caribbean runner in Kirani James of Grenada won his heat to secure a place in this next round. Well, finally, here's why the news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, variably cloudy and overcast conditions with periods of showers, rain in broad areas, and medium to high chance of thunderstorm activity in various localities. Tonight would be partly cloudy with intermittent showers. Gusty winds and street or flash flooding can occur in the event of heavy showers or thunderstorms. Trinidad and Tobago is presently under a yellow level alert that will end at 6 p.m. today. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, both at Piarco International Airport and Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature is 24 degrees Celsius at both localities. Recapping your headlines at 7 o'clock, 2 men fall to their deaths after their vehicle plunged into the Sapero River in San Fernando. A missing man is reunited with his family after a ransom is paid for his return. A prison inmate is charged with murder has escaped custody while seeking treatment at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex. The Prime Minister remains neutral on Venezuela political turmoil, and Trinidad and Tobago sprinter Jareem Richards is into the semifinals of the men's 400-meter race. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. That was News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again come 8 o'clock this morning for a news brief. All righty. Quickly, traffic-wise, a bit busy this morning. If you're leaving San Fernando on the Solo, you got some volume as you head towards heading up north. You'll pick up your traffic, heavier traffic from Claxton Bay, and that's going to take you out to Chicagonas, and then Charlieville towards interchange. You've got some volume there. Valencia stretch is heavy. Going through Santa Rosa is heavy. Piyako to Yui is heavy. And then from Valsain to Port of Spain, it is volume. Eastern Main Road, your heavy spot will be from Macoya until you pass Mount Hope. Just some congestion there. All right. That's a quick traffic update for you. All right, gentlemen, let's see if we have any more votes on our morning poll. Okay, somebody else is saying we're not getting a live stream. Okay. Southman says no. Emmanuel in Fort Lauderdale says no. Anne-Marie says no. Let's see. Heading out here. We did Slick Money Grip. Michael Gradison says no. I just want yes or no's. I'm getting so much explanation. That's it.
You know, there's cricket in the Queen's Park Oval this week, eh? That will probably explain the rain. West Indies will play South Africa. I actually was in El Pecos on the Avenue. I love El Pecos food there. And on a Sunday, they have some long lines. So I went there yesterday to get lunch, and there were three of the cricketers. The West Indies captain, Craig Brathwaite. I think the other guy is Warrican, and Joshua De Silva, the wicketkeeper. They were all there in the line to get lunch yesterday too. So West Indies playing South Africa in the Queen's Park Oval from Wednesday, I think.
All right, let me just get the poll results. So the poll results were, the poll this morning is, do you think Trinidad and Tobago is investing enough in sport for athletes to excel on the international stage? That's our poll this morning. We have 36 people voting on the poll in the allotted time. Of the 36 people, 35 of you said no, you do not think Trinidad and Tobago is investing enough. One person said yes.
Well, and that person was easily identifiable as Clint Batiste. Clint, it'll be interesting. We probably should interview you. He's a counselor in Port of Spain. It'll be interesting to hear Clint's perspective on his yes.
So 35 said no, one person said yes. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day and throughout programming, and we give you the final results tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is why it is because of, I guess, the results of the poll too. What would spark a comment like what Michelle Liai said? I don't know if Paul can pull it up. Do we have a guest?
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, because it really deflates you sometimes when you get the kind of comments and the criticisms that people give to our athletes who really put out a lot for this country. It really deflates them. So I can understand some of them, people saying they're not gracious, but sometimes your bitterness, not your bitterness, but your disappointment spills out. It happens with everybody, I guess.
Well, so I think it's bitterness. I think she's the person who's experienced the ups and the downs of sporadic and convenient support.
Yeah.
You understand? They are the ones who sacrifice, and people don't see when you're up 4 o'clock in the morning and training for months and months. People don't see the injuries and the recovery and the investment you and your family make and the sacrifices. People just see when you're on the field.
Yes.
So I understand very well how they feel when you're winning, when you're losing, oh gosh, you lose again. You understand?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's bitterness. I think she's being very frank and honest.
Yeah. Noah Lyles almost made a kind of similar statement too. You know, he have no with his detractors. He know that they are there. You know, who like him and who don't like him. But all the same, you have to move on. You have to do what's best for yourself at the end of the day. You know.
Yeah, and to your point earlier on, Wendell, about scouts. Yes, scouts pick up students and athletes when they are doing well at local meets and in school meets. They come and they see, but more scouts are going to Jamaica and other countries. That's the point.
Yes. Yes.
Because of the development programs and the consistency of the athletes they're producing. Yes. I'm not saying scouts don't come here, but I'm sure more scouts. Where do you think most of these scouts going?
Yeah, I'm headed to Jamaica
Yes,
very
there's
soon.
a reason why more and more scouts are looking at Jamaica, because the development programs are more consistent.
Yeah, well, some scouts approached me because I ran a race recently, but I told them, no, I'm not interested.
I saw that race, Richard. I saw that race.
Yeah, I'm not interested. I'm not.
But I'm going. I'm headed to Jamaica very soon. They scout me, I go in.
For what?
Our guest will join us shortly.
For what discipline, Wendell?
Pole vault.
Once again, we have a new hour added to the Our Breakfast Show from 8 to 9. The facilitators / hosts will be Mondays and Wednesdays, Denise Deming, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, Marsha Walker. We're still confirming the Friday host, and they'll be having their own guests, and you can be a part of their shows right here on Power 102 Digital.
Is that to counter that video that I saw the other day about the PNM breakfast show?
No, we were working on that a long time. Brenda,
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing, of course. But I couldn't help but laugh at that video. I say, well, they're trying to make this show more popular, clearly, by calling it the PNM.
Why are you worried about that?
And they put X's on 3 all their faces and didn't put any on mine. I just laugh.
because you're self-avowed. Speaking of, let me share this.
I have done my duty. I'm not dead yet. So it ought not to be said that I kept the faith, I've run the course. But I've done my duty in this party. The last duty I had in the party was to make sure that I encourage young people to come in, to join. Many of them did well, came in as far as the government or in local government. I believe in young people. I'm confident that the exercises for which I had responsibility, which is to pass on the right training to young people in the cabinet, has been done and done well and with purpose. Your MP is one of them. I have nothing against ambition. I'm proud to see that those that I've trained are reaching out. When I started out here with you, I saw a couple of you in the lineup tonight who were here with me many years ago. A few of them are still in the executive. The MP wasn't anywhere wrong. We literally had to get a bulldozer to bring her in the last time. Well, she's now in like Flint. But you see, all I want to say to our young people, all of them, is that make sure that your ambition is made of very stern stuff. Because the PLM expects no less. The country is depending on you. Today, your MP is a deputy political leader. But I want to end on this note, as you showed here. In the same constitution I just mentioned, the role of the deputy political leader is spelled out in there. And it is to assist the political leader. Great is the PM.
Throw a line there for somebody.
one line, he threw several lines.
He threw a line for somebody.
Several lines he threw there.
Speaking of, good morning, a fortuitous entry.
Look at who we have as guest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if this is the only way I get to see him and talk to him now, I cool with that, you know.
Good morning,
Senior Counsel.
Good
morning, Senior.
Good, Richard Ragoobarsingh, good morning.
Minister,
good morning,
Senior
Mr.
Counsel,
Stevens.
Scotland.
Good morning, Mr.
Morning,
Khan.
Senior.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Senior.
Mr. Stevens, do not let us air our business in public.
My MP.
I did not see you. I did not see you last Sunday, sir.
No, well, I told you why, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did.
All right.
Mr. Ragoobarsingh, how are you?
I am good. I'm good, sir. Good to see you. Good to see
Senator
you.
Richards, good morning.
Good morning, Senior Minister.
Well, yes, he has been wearing so many hats now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be like that, gentlemen.
We appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And your portfolio has become even more expanded now, so your time is so much less.
I have time for things that are important.
I appreciate that. We appreciate that. First of all, how do you feel about your new appointment? Congratulations on your senior counsel elevation, first of all.
Yes, indeed.
I realize it took
so
something else to bring me on your program, but
I have not heard one person discount your worthiness of that.
For sure, eh?
Not one person. As a matter of fact, on both sides of the aisle, persons have said privately and publicly that you are well deserving of that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
Which is not the same for everybody, but that's another conversation.
Mr. Richard, you just had to say that, right?
So tell us how you feel about that conversation, about your elevation to the position of minister in the Ministry of National Security and your assignment from the Prime Minister.
I was very humble, and then when I understood the nature of the task, I put on my seatbelt and I said, get down to it immediately. There is no honeymoon period. There's no gestation period. It is just hit the road running. But that is something that would have informed my entire career. I remember when I first hung up my shingles more than 20 years ago, one of the first cases that I had to do was a very, very significant case in law as it relates to the lawful chastisement of a child. And I did my research with Mr. Ken Saga, God rest his soul, and I literally hit the ground running. And he said to me, because I was able to prevail in that matter, and he said to me when I came back and I was about to celebrate, he said to me, celebrate very, very quickly. You are as good as your last case. And that has been the advice. He allowed me to celebrate for about 5 minutes, and then he said, buckle down, you're as good as your last case.
Well, you've won some big matters just prior to you taking up the appointment as minister. I know of a couple of them. You know, but what exactly, I mean, because I don't think it has been clear yet exactly what entails your portfolio now. It was said that you're in charge of the police service, but what exactly does that mean?
Well, in charge meaning the commissioner of police is in charge of the police service. What it means is that my focus in national security, one of my focus includes the police service. My foci includes the police service, immigration, money laundering, and those related issues, white-collar crime.
Okay, well, thanks for clearing that up. I didn't realize immigration was also part in there with you.
Yes.
All right.
That's very interesting. As your recent incarnation as chair of the Joint Select Committee on National Security, both the police service and the Customs and Excise Division would have come before us in the last couple of months and years. Both have, by their own contributions in those committees being questioned by the committee, come up short in many areas.
Yes.
The police service, in terms of the commission, and only this commissioners passed about the targets and the lack of meeting of those targets, and meeting of some targets in some instances, to be fair. And Customs and Excise, with tours of your predecessor in that committee, Minister Hines, now Minister of National Security, and also the tours we had of ports, including the Port of Port of Spain, Plebdeco, and the airport. And the glaring gaps we've seen, even more recently, the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Finance came to the Parliament and reported about the anomalies at the Port of Spain. It's interesting that both yourself and Minister Hines were chair of that National Security GSC and saw firsthand the deficiencies in critical agencies in national security in Trinidad and Tobago. How do you intend to use that information and that first-hand knowledge and interface with those agencies to close those significant gaps?
The first thing that I will address is the optimization, the usage of the resources provided to those agencies and the lack of using them for the purpose. Mr. Richards, Senator Richards, you will recall when we went to the port with respect to scanners, and we actually visited the port itself. Do you recall where that scanner that was hit by the vehicle, it was a forklift, was located? The government provided a scanner in one of the warehouses, yes? Gentlemen, there is a scanner that is in the most remote corner of the warehouse. And we were told that a forklift, you remember that, Senator Richards? We were walking and it was damaged and not repaired. And I took a deep breath because I was wondering, how could a vehicle, in this case a forklift, leave an entire warehouse of some 7,000 square foot at least and find that scanner in a remote corner and have it
on more than one occasion, Minister?
Yes, every time we purchase the scanner, that happened. So it means then that there's something going on relative to the optimization of our resources. I intend to use the information coming from the Joint Select Committee on National Security to address those issues. That remains etched in my mind because, Senator Richard, I think you and I were walking together when we saw that, and we both looked at it and said, how could a forklift, what would a forklift be doing in this area? It means that there are serious fundamental issues that we need to address as it relates to critical aspects of national security, which includes the Customs and Excise.
Well, the question will arise, Minister, that your colleague, the Minister of Finance, is responsible as line minister for Customs and Excise. Would that not be correct?
He is.
So the question could arise in the same cabinet. There's a minister, high-ranking minister, responsible for Customs and Excise through the Ministry of Finance. But these things are happening and the deficiencies continue because when your predecessor and I toured the port, even before you became the chairman of that committee, a lot of the issues remained. So the question is going to arise in the same cabinet and cabinet ministers talking about these issues. And at what point does it move from the persons operating inside to the PS financially and in other ways responsible for the agencies, to the government ministers holding them accountable in terms of policy and delivery in the same government?
My answer to that, and the Minister of Finance doesn't need me to defend him, but how does a minister, any minister in any ministry, deal with an issue like that? The responsibility of the minister would have been to provide that scanner. That was done. It was done. What transpired thereafter is that forklift left where it had to leave and just totally put that scanner out of operations. You cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, put the blame or lay the blame for that at the feet of the minister. It means then that there are things happening in there that needs the attention of the day-to-day operations of that issue. That one stuck in my memory because of the quaintness of that occurrence. I still have cognitive dissonance understanding that one.
Minister, let me add another layer to that. The other issue that came up in that inquiry, and this is why this is so confusing to me, and I'm not saying the minister is directly responsible for operations, but at the end of the day, there are ways the minister can hold the authorities responsible. What also happened that was diverse to us is that customs authorities failed to put in motion procurement processes for the timely procurement of a new scanner, leaving a gap. So how does all of this continue to happen, leaving that port so vulnerable?
That was not, again, if you recall, when we interrogated further, those things were put in place. But let us say, and we do not admit at all that that is the case, because we understand that they are on the way, they have been purchased. But what we would want to do now is to engage in the day-to-day operations to ensure that what happened there, maybe putting the cameras in that port to see what is happening. Because what we want to do is to avoid, and this was not the first time, you were correct, that scanner was damaged accidentally. And maybe deterrence and putting measures in place to see what is going on. That may be an issue that has to be addressed, but it is not fair to say that the issue of the scanners have not been dealt with, because they have procured them, and I think that they are coming very shortly. But when they come very shortly, let's say they come today, what will prevent another driver of a forklift to leave the entire 7,000 square foot area of that warehouse and accidentally put out, and it was totally put out of commission? Because when we inquired whether it could have been repaired, if you recall, the answer was no. They had to get a new one. So not only was it damaged, gentlemen, it was damaged to the point that you could not use it anymore.
Well, Minister, hear what, because I'm listening to this, right? And I'm saying, where do we separate the issue of a minister in charge of customs in terms of the Minister of Finance and the fact that we may have had possible criminal activity? Who investigates that? Surely not is it not the customs officials themselves, or does that fall under the ambit of the police commissioner in that case?
It certainly will fall under the ambit either of the controller of customs internally, and if there's criminal activity, the commissioner of police. But in those circumstances, you would need more evidence. You would need more input to show that the damage was malicious circumstantially. When you look at what transpired, I'm just using that as a microcosm of what we are facing. You have to get physical and actual real evidence to show that the resources that was put in for a specific purpose was damaged, and the official report is accidentally. So you certainly cannot lay blame for that to the Honorable Minister. And any other questions?
No, I wasn't intending to blame him on the Minister, Minister. And someone is saying, does Paul expect the Minister of Finance to stand guard? No, I don't, obviously. No. But at the end of the day, if the Minister is providing resources and through curious occurrences, the equipment is being damaged or not used or turned on and off conveniently, the Minister had the power to initiate an investigation through the police.
Yeah. I don't think that is correct, but in any event, let us find solution. The solution has to be that the controller internally will initiate her internal inquiries, and if necessary, the police comes in, and that will apply across the board to any ministry. But that one stood out in my mind because what it showed is that the government is providing resources, but we are being stymied.
Minister, I want to segue straight into the issue of the police commissioner and her issues, well, whoever that may be, in terms of discipline in the police service and rogue officers at all levels, because they are at the junior level and they are at the senior level. Because my feeling, this is my personal view, that if you can't fix this country's crime problem if you don't fix your internal issues, and the police have a lot of internal issues. How are you going to assist? And I know that you, and I trust that you can. I know that you can, in terms of getting this sorted out with the police service.
The first answer to that lies in the structure of discipline in the police service. You would know, of course, that there's the internal structure, but you will also know that the powers to discipline also lies with the commission, and that is the makeup of our constitution. We are in the process now of constitutional review, and maybe the time has come for there to be more direct control of discipline internally in the police service, and making it more amenable to, one, early interdiction, two, quick resolution of the issues that attend to those police officers. If you have, for example, the internal police disciplinary process, the persons who sit on those tribunals, they are not permanent. So they will sit maybe once a week, twice a week. That does not augur well for the timely disposition of these matters. So it means then, gentlemen, that maybe the time has come for the rethinking of our constitutional arrangements as it relates to these things.
So is it then that we probably could see a revamping or retooling of the Professional Standards Bureau, which is an arm within the police service, to investigate police officers? I thought they were going good.
Not just I thought they were going good until to do it in a timely fashion, to have these matters dealt with, maybe put the members of that bureau who sits on the tribunal as permanent. So what they do, at least until the backlog has been dealt with.
Yeah. But Minister, how is your intersect with the TTPS going to work? Let's say even in that example, is it that you would make recommendations? I understand the part from resourcing the TTPS, because you would have a direct line to the Minister of Finance, as much as anybody could have a direct line to the Minister of Finance. But the Minister of Finance is the one who provides the financial resources, and you can be that middleman in terms of whatever the resource allocation that is required from the TTPS. But how much else can you really get involved? Because you're right, there is the Police Service Commission.
Yes, there is. But as it relates to resourcing, I can tell you that on Wednesday last, I met with the commissioner and 3 DCPs, and one of the DCPs was the one in charge of administration and operations. And we did ask, and of course, I've read the manpower report done by Professor Diosaran. I've read it from cover to cover. And there are issues in there that would need addressing from a funding standpoint. And the intersect would be having that information in hand to be delivered and to the minister, and asking for, in these areas, in this time, particular investment in certain areas. But then we go back, and I use the example of that scanner. What happens after that? What happens when we invest in new vehicles? Will those vehicles be used for the purpose that it has been, they've been allotted? You would know, gentlemen, on Tuesday, 4 vehicles were handed over to the Pradial Larceny Squad, bringing it up to 9. In other words, for the areas that they represent, on the areas that they oversee, they would have vehicles for all those areas. Now what is left to be seen is how that will be put into action in order to reduce Pradial larceny, incidents of Pradial larceny, now that the resources have been provided. So we are trying to provide the resources. I certainly will make recommendations from what I have read relative to the manpower issues in the police service. I am getting some more feedback from the DCP in charge of that by Wednesday, and there'll be recommendations made, because if there is a need, we will hope that we can, as far as reasonably practicable, fund those needs to get them on the road, because, gentlemen, crime is not our friend, and time is not our friend as it relates to crime.
It might be worth your while to getting a report from the police commissioner about all these matters that are being currently investigated by the internal departments.
That is something that is very essential, because we don't want the investigations to linger. It is either the officers we need the matters to come to some resolution, and that is why I suggested that the members who sit on those panels, those tribunals, after the investigation, at least for now, be made permanent, or some other arrangements be made so that they don't sit once a week, that they sit maybe every day. They would have other duties, because if you would know that the members are police officers themselves.
Yes.
But we may need just to take them off of their duties, let them do that, or allocate 8 hours a day to do that and do their other work. But it is important that we, that we sanitize as far as we can the police service, so people will have confidence in the police service. Member Richards, you would know, Senator Richards, you would know that as part of the inquiry into criminal activity and crime in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the issues was the confidence of the public and the level of confidence that the public had in the police service, if you recall that.
Yes, and one of the issues that came up with the public confidence and trust in the police service, this is an issue I raised over and over again, is something as technologically pervasive as the issue of body cams. And over and over, in the past couple of years, I have asked commissioner after commissioner about the policy, and they are on record as saying it is part of standard operating procedure. Yet, when there are high stakes encounters, when police are going on planned operations, where one would imagine there should be the use of body cams for accountability and to verify the accounts of the officers, which very often are different to bystanders and members of the public, we don't seem to see police consistently wearing body cams. We have all kind of excuses. First, it was we have to train. First, we don't know the race coming up for them. Then it had the batteries in and a plethora of excuses. Most recently, that encounter in St. Augusta, when you were the chair, I asked the commissioner in that situation where 4 men died. The reports were that there was an exchange of gunfire and an open fire on police, and the police returned fire and the men died. And when I asked the commissioner if body cams were employed, because that was a planned operation, the commissioner wasn't aware. When I asked the CP, is it Suzette Martin?
Yeah.
Operations, who was on site, who hosted a press conference right after the incident, she was not aware. And when you hear things like that, the public gets a sense, well, I get a sense that there's a reluctance from officers to consistently wear body cams. How are you going to deal with that if that is indeed an issue? If the issue is batteries, why did they procure batteries that only last an hour when body cams are used all over the world and the batteries last 4 and 6 hours, etc.? That to me is a classic example of if there's a change of that and we see something as simple as that, or seemingly as simple as that, being consistently applied, there is accountability and there's a potential for building public trust and confidence.
There is the departmental order that dictates that body cams ought to be worn in certain circumstances. I would respectfully, without crossing any boundaries, give an advice as it relates to that. You know what the position I took at the JSC, National Security, and that position has not changed. And more importantly, the wearing of the body cams will be in certain sensitive and critical exercises, will be a buffer for the police service as it relates to maybe spurious and unfounded allegations of overstepping. So it's a means of protection, but it also is a means of giving to the public at least the feeling of confidence in the police that they did things properly. In other words, the body cam are there for rationale, and this rationale is twofold. One, to protect the police service from unfounded allegations. Two, to instill confidence that things went properly. And I think that the departmental order ought to be enforced, and I will give a respectful advice without overstepping any boundaries.
One of the issues that came up also is the fact that there seems to be, and it speaks to Wendell's question about the disciplinary procedure and the tribunal that you outlined earlier on, and the reluctance, it seems, from the police leadership to deal with these matters because in local parlance, they're afraid court.
I do think that is a fair commentary on it. But what I think could happen is a more robust prosecution. And as I mentioned before, even the internal process, we need to have that speeded up. And if an internal allegation crosses the line as a criminal activity, then by all means, our position at the JSC, Senator Richards, was charge. Let the courts decide what, and let the chips lie where they fall.
Your remit as announced by the Prime Minister, to me, is quite extensive. Police service, immigration, customs, and also you mentioned money laundering and white collar crime.
Yes.
Those are very, very expansive areas and critical areas in national security and citizen security. Could you speak a bit to the issue of white collar crime and what exactly your remit is where that is concerned? Because we don't have the Office of the HE, we have POCA, Proceeds of Crime Law, yet there doesn't seem to be, and I could be wrong, you could correct me if I'm wrong, the kind of assertiveness in weeding out white collar crime, which is really in many people's estimations at the foot of the blue collar crime and the ground crime we're seeing, where the funders, the persons who bring in the containers with the guns, never seem to be caught or never seem to be held accountable. The persons who are washing money through so-called legitimate businesses never seem to be brought to account. And those are the issues where the cycle of crime is funded, but those funders of crime are not being, to me, brought to the criminal justice system as much as we would presume, given what the assertion is by experts of the level of underground of economy in this country with dirty money.
That is an area that I'm acquainting myself with it with a different lens, and that is an area that we will be looking at. Obviously, there would be sensitive issues related to that, which I will not be allowed to discuss in this forum, but certainly we know that white collar crime is something that ought to be looked at. I declare that at one point in time I was involved as defense attorney in one of the airports inquiry. I represented at least one of the persons charged. But if you know that matter, Airport 1, is still going on, whilst in the United States of America, persons who were charged that have just not finished their cases, but they've done their time and come out.
And paid back money.
Delay in the system 25 years now. So it's really something that needs to be dealt with. Of course, from my experience, you would know that some of those persons, and there's the presumption of innocence, will have the resources to have tangential challenges to these things, meaning by judicial review, by constitutional motions. So all these things are aspects that you will have to look at as it relates to the prosecution of white collar crime. We have the example of the airport case, and that is something that is live before us, and I think we would learn from our experiences. And I certainly will bring my little experience that I have in that area in that aspect, particularly of white collar crime and money laundering. It has been said sometimes that it's the new act of terrorism. Very quiet, but very, very pernicious and insidious.
But Minister, the Prime Minister, in giving you this portfolio of the TTPS, immigration, customs and excise, has he in fact done a kind of reshuffle and demoted the previous complete Minister of National Security? Why shouldn't look at it through that lens?
It is not correct. You ought not to look at it through that lens. The Ministry of National Security is a vast ministry dealing with several other issues. You would know that the Honorable Minister has retained his portfolio of Minister of National Security. I do not see it as a demotion in any way. I do not see it as a reshuffle. What I see it as is the utilization of a resource that the Honorable Prime Minister perceived that he had in order to assist in the ministry. And my role is to do exactly the task that was given to me by the Honorable Prime Minister. So in short, the answer is no. And in long, the answer is there's a collaborative effort to attack and address the issue of criminal activity in Trinidad and Tobago. Gentlemen, let me give you an example. And to use the laws that we have now. My experience, and I'm understanding it now, in the courts are, we know when you are charged with an offense, you go to court, and the first thing that you do is the issue of bail, correct? Do you know, if you are charged with the possession of firearms and ammunition, and you do your matter summarily, there's a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 15 years. And if you go before a judge and a jury, or a judge alone, if you are convicted, the term that you are liable to is 20 years. That is one. And that is section 6.1. There's the other charge. You know that if you are charged with possession of firearm with intent to injure, and that goes to the shootings that are occurring throughout the country under section 12, the penalty is imprisonment for life. I intend to liaise with the police investigators, the complainants who bring these matters before the court. Because when bail, and this is the practical aspect that I bring to this ministry, when bail is being canvassed before either the district judge, which is the magistrate, or a judge in chambers, the prosecution's view is sought. We will be taking, and I will be advising of a more robust approach, one, to bail not being punitive, because the raison d'etre of bail is to ensure that the persons attend court, but we will be insisting, based on the prevalence of the offense and the seriousness of the offense, we will be insisting in some instances of no bail, or very, very serious bail with reporting conditions that will allow the police to keep track of those persons. As it relates to sentencing, I have to the forefront of my mind the principles of sentencing as outlined in R.V. Benjamin, and I'm just saying because it's in my head, 1967 11 West Indian reports at page 389, and the 5 principles are deterrent of the particular offender, deterrent of like-minded offenders, the penal aspect, the rehabilitative aspect, and the general aspect that the court is considering of sentencing. When it comes to sentencing, we intend, and I intend to advise, and it's a respectful advice, that the views of the prosecution, if it's before the magistrate, be held and be given to the magistrate, which is the district judge, and if it's before the high court, through the police complainant to the prosecutor, that the views of the prosecution be given to the judge, whose sole discretion, of course, it is to make a sentence, but within the parameters of the limit that the law gives. So if they give you life imprisonment as the ultimate sanction, and you're a second-time offender, what will be the submission before the court in order to adhere to the principle of, one, deterrent to the particular offender, and the deterrent to like-minded offenders? As the law operates, Mr. Ragoobarsingh, and you would know that, in every matter, there's one aspect of sentencing that would be more prevalent, or that will be more significant. So, for example, for young offenders, the court may consider rehabilitation as the most important consideration. However, for repeat offenders, you would likely look at the concept where rehabilitation hasn't worked, deterrent of this repeat offender, and also the deterrent of like-minded offenders. So this is what we would bring to the process in order to inform the court so they can know that
I'm a little
robust approach.
Yeah, Minister, I'm a little puzzled though. And aren't you, in a sense, kind of stepping on the toes of the DPP in terms of you saying adding some level of advice, and I'm calling it liberally advice, to the prosecutorial team?
Absolutely not. The constitutional remit of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution will not in any way be infringed. How I describe it is as for, and this is the practical aspect of it. When you go and someone is charged, initially, there is the aspect of bail, correct?
Yes.
They will ask the prosecution, what are your views? without overstepping any boundaries. There will be a view expressed by the police complainant, that certainly in matters of firearm offenses that will be advanced to the court. As it relates to sentencing,
okay, if you could pause right there, if I can ask it. When you say there will be a point of view expressed by the police complainant,
yes,
is it at your insistence?
No.
Or is it that that's the normal rote process of the police complainant and they are always entitled to seek advice from the DPP's office because ultimately it comes under the DPP? So when you say it, it seems to me as if you're stepping into that realm and you're not yet convincing me that you're not.
Let me make it pellucidly clear. The police will be asked for their views as it relates to offenses, the one that I've just read out, for example, possession of firearm with intent to injure, section 12. There will be a very respectful advice as it relates to the prevalence of this type of offense in the country now, and that position will be communicated to the prosecutor as it relates to their input as it relates to bail. And I think that is very allowable and not at all stepping on anybody's toes or not at all infringing on the independent discretion of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. If you say to me, well, hold on, if you say to me, well, you appear to be pushing the envelope, the answer to that is no, we are within our bounds to express our views relative to the prevalence and the scourge of these type of offenses. And if there's a perception that there is a pushing of the envelope, my respectful advice or my respectful position on that will be that these times that we are in now calls for a more robust approach, and the views of the police complainant, which is sought in all matters, will be made known to the prosecutor.
Yeah.
It is
Minister,
just views.
Yeah. I actually think the envelope needs to be pushed, but I want to ask this quickly. Is it because you are a minister in the Ministry of National Security, is there a requirement for you to consult first with the substantive minister before any sort of policy decisions are developed, like what you are speaking now?
Even if there wasn't, and we say, and I make no pronouncement on that, there's always in every policy decision, it is not a one-man show. So obviously, there will be consultation on all issues, But what will happen is that consultation, that focus will be done in a more timely manner because of what we are facing today. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
You know,
so you
Minister,
are also in the cabinet, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Yeah. Minister, as immigration and customs and excise also comes under you, this is something that we have discussed on this program. The issue of immigration forms,
oh God,
which was supposed to be dispensed with a few years ago, and you are a well-traveled person, so that you know.
And a well-filled out form. He must fill out hundreds of forms.
But you know there are many countries that you don't have to fill out a form anymore.
No, you don't.
And so Trinidad seems a little bit behind in terms of that. In addition to which, you have countries that have much more active national threats against them, like, for example, the United States. Yet, when you enter the United States, a lot of the times, there's a lot of intelligence operating behind the scenes, so you can just collect your suitcase and leave. You don't have to confront a customs officer by the green line saying, what you buy? You buy any gifts? How much alcohol you purchase?
Well, Richard, they're not even stamping your passport sometimes when you enter the United States.
Well,
and I'm just saying, is there room for modernization of those processes?
Well, one, Mr. Ragoobarsingh, I don't think that it is my experience that when you make your declaration, you confront, you're being not dramatic, but I will not I will not give it the nomenclature of confronting, but certainly it has been done in other countries. I do not know. This is my first week, so I do not pretend to be an insufferable know-it-all. So I would have to acquaint myself more with that process, Mr. Ragoobarsingh, before I comment on it. But I will not say that what exists now is the issue of confrontation, but the issue of the declaration. When I go, it's a strange mindset. I am now acquainting myself with the digital age. So when I don't have to do it, I wonder what is going on, because in some countries, in Dominica, you don't have to fill out the forms. And I'm still looking for those forms to fill out, not knowing that it has passed already. So it is something that I need to look at, acquaint myself with the landscape before I make a pronouncement on it.
Minister, thanks for being with us this morning, and we wish you all the best with you on your assignment.
Member Richards, let me say to you, I will miss you at the JSC National
Security. Who's your replacement?
He did not tell you all he's the vice chairman, and when we have questions, Mr. Richards says to me, I have 2 more questions. But then he whispers on this, but these 2 questions are divided into 3 parts. So the 2 questions, they morph into 6. That is 1. Mr. Ragoobarsingh, I hope that you will not have to confront any officer when you have your declarations made. Mr. Stevens, I will not air in public.
I corrected myself, Minister. I said they politely ask. Because they're always polite.
I would hope so. And
that's why I said they politely
thank you very much for letting me know that my appointment was with you this morning. For some strange reason, Mr. Stevens told me it was tomorrow. But I'm glad that you still remain constant and you informed me that it was this morning.
Minister Scotland, let's meet in our usual place now, right? And
yes, sir. Gentlemen, I need to go to do the work of the people.
The work of the people.
May I be excused?
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Senior, for being with us this morning.
Mr. Ragoobarsingh, have a good day.
You too, sir.
All right.
You'll have a great day. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks, peace.
Of course, Lotto Madness is on this weekend, people. Tickets available at Case Clear Fashions, C3 Center, Gulf City, Brentwood Mall, Friends of Marabella by the Roundabout, and at the Sapa box office from Wednesday. Get your tickets early, so looking forward to it. Sapa, we coming down. Have a fantastic day. Speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning.
None of you all didn't know I changed my glasses, but say what? Anyway, folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God. Paul, happy birthday tomorrow. I'll message you.
All right, let's get into our 8 o'clock news brief. AVSN.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is time for news updates at 8 o'clock. I'm Avril Sintel Bob. Good morning. The time has come for more discipline in the police service. This is according to Minister Keith Scotland. He told the Power Breakfast Show this morning that the time may have come for constitutional changes that would target the police service. Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Scotland, said that he has been updated on shortages of resources in the service, and he has every intention of providing help to deal with the shortfalls. He said that it is of the utmost importance that the service gets all they need to treat with crime. He also explained that his new position does not in any way mean a demotion for the Minister of National Security. He said there are many different facets of the security ministry, and his position is just one of them. He maintained that it now allows the National Security Minister the opportunity to focus on his other duties within the ministry. A night out for a group of friends ended tragically on Sunday after 2 of them fell to their deaths when the pickup they were traveling in ran off the highway and plunged into the Sapero River in San Fernando. The Hunters Search and Rescue Team discovered the bodies of businessman Sachin Tilakdari of Clark Road, Pinal, and Ryan Ramnanan of Tulsa Trace, San Francisco at 2:38 p.m. Both men were already dead. A prison inmate charged with murder has escaped custody while seeking treatment at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, Mount Hope. A statement from the TT Prison Service said Hakeem Ishmael Mohammed from Wharf Trace, Maracas, St. Joseph, escaped from the hospital's accident and emergency department around 3 a.m. on August 4th. The prison service said Mohammed was considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached if seen. And the Trinidad and Tobago sprinter Jareem Richards is into the semi-finals of the men's 400 meters race. The Point Fortin-born runner placed second in 2 heats of the event in a time of 44.32 seconds on Sunday. American Michael Norman won the event in 44.10 seconds. Another Caribbean runner in Kirani James of Grenada won his heat to secure a place in the next round. Well, that was your update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full at 12 noon.
Do digital.
Hi, good morning, and welcome to Power Conversations. I'm Denise Deming, and we have our guest today, Deborah Lewis. But just before we begin our guest, Deborah, thank you ever so much for being with us. Just before we begin, a couple of things. Power Conversation. Today is the first edition of Power Conversation. We invite you to call us. We invite you to comment on all of the things that we're saying. We invite you to follow us. You can phone, you can come in, and because Power Conversations is about that. So welcome, Deborah. Thank you for joining us, and tell me, why are you here? Why did you say yes?
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. Because I think that the topic that we are going to talk about is important. I mean, I can't say precisely when I became interested in this. There are lots of studies and so on that have shown the role, but I think it was really through my personal experience. I've been a midwife for 40 years, and over those years, just in the conversation with males, really piqued my interest. And so, yes, here we are to talk more about it this morning.
Yes, and we are talking about the role of men at the birth of children, because that is something that appears to be still a little bit difficult. And my interest is really, what would be the benefit? Why should a man be there at the birth? But just before you answer, Deborah, please call us on 222-TALK. That's 8255. If you're calling from the US or Canada, it's toll free, and it is 866-525-1099. That's 866-525-1099. And if you want to WhatsApp us, please do so on 868-318-1021. So that's 318-1021. So, Deborah, we're talking about men being present at the birth of their child. And can you give us a little background on that?
I think it's double-sided, really. Men, the focus in pregnancy and birth and so on is on the woman, and rightfully so. She's growing the baby. But I think we really underestimate the role of the male. They have lots of emotions as well that they go through: fear, anxiety, lots. And we are quite often, they're not allowed to really express those emotions for a variety of reasons, because they have to stay strong, just for a variety of reasons. And so the role is double. So they should be allowed to express what they're feeling, because then they're better able to cope and to support, etc. But also the reverse of that, if they're allowed to actively participate, the bond that is created with the family, not just with the child, but with the family as a family unit, it cannot be underestimated. And so the birth is like the beginning. It's the beginning of their journey as parents. And it's such an important point. It's a really vulnerable point that they need to be a part of. And historically, men have not been present. You see the pictures of the men in the waiting room, I don't know, handing out cigars or something. But that has changed. And that was so when things were different. It was seen as more of a women's area. And so women had support from their immediate families and friends and communities. And that is no longer so. The role of the male has really increased. And so we need to recognize and acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that men are allowed to be at the birth of their children in our hospitals?
Well, an amazing thing has happened where our minister, several years ago, if we were having this conversation, it would be a flat no, not routinely. But our Ministry of Health has now mandated all of the public hospitals to work on something called the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, where one of the primary areas is that a woman is allowed to have someone present with her for her labor and her birth. Is it where we would like it to be? Not ideally, but it's huge progress from a couple of years ago. We still have some work to do. But where I see the need primarily, yes, at the birth, but also during the pregnancy, like we should have them involved from the beginning of the pregnancy, throughout the journey. So in a nutshell, great progress, still work to be done.
Mm-hmm. So it means that a woman can have someone at present for the birth.
Yes.
So she chooses who it is. It's not necessarily the father.
It is not. And so the thing is that it's about choice, right? It's a basic right. It's a basic human right. And it's about choice. So it says the person that she identifies. It could be her partner. It could be her mother. It is the person that she identifies as the person that she wants to be there, who is best able to give her the support that she's looking for. And most times it is the partner, the baby's father, but doesn't have to be.
Yes. So what do you think happens when the baby's father is there at the birth? Do you think that helps with the connection?
Yes, and again, there are lots of research studies that have shown that. But again, speaking from my personal experience, I see a new respect for the woman when they see the process of labor and birth. And I see a bonding with that child that just doesn't exist outside of that. Yes, it can be created if you're not present for the birth, but being present for that birth kickstarts it, and really brings out, women in labor and at birth produce this hormone called oxytocin, which is called the love hormone, but men produce it too when they're there. So it's like a jump start, to start that bonding process. So therefore, the relationship with the woman, the bonding and relationship with the child, and then ultimately just the relationship and the bond as a family unit, which we really need. So I've seen and I have to say that sometimes the parents are no longer in a relationship. Things happen. I've had parents that have gone through a divorce during the pregnancy. I've seen parents that the relationship ended and then found out that she was pregnant. So there's a variety of scenarios. But just being present for that birth develops the relationship at whatever level it's meant to be. So if they are still involved in a relationship, really powerful. If they're not, then they still have to co-parent, so the relationship ultimately benefits.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the presence of a father at the birth of a child almost begins that co-parenting. Absolutely,
because it's vital. When you see that emotion and that swell of just joy at that moment of birth, when that baby comes out, and they can be as involved as they want to be. So quite often I say, you can stand in the corner with your back turned, but your mere presence, because also Again, well researched, that the presence of a familiar person that you trust during your labor and birth makes a big difference in how the woman manages, copes, how it progresses, that type of thing. So just their presence, but then imagine being present in a more intimate way and supporting. It's just powerful.
Yes, yes. And what has been your experience when you've seen men at the birth? Is it that they cry? Is it that they are? What have you seen?
A lot of tears, definitely emotion, but expressed in different ways. So if I reflect on the last birth last week, he just kept saying, like, we did it, like, she's ours. I can't believe, like, he's looking at her, he's looking at the baby, he's like, are you okay? You look great. It's just, there are different reactions, but absolutely always filled with emotion and expressed in different ways. And because they're comfortable usually in the environment, then they feel free to cry. Because again, our society puts all these demands on men and makes them feel like, but we have had tears, we've had breaking down, bawling, everybody is, and usually I'll tell them, listen, we have to focus on her, but we'll keep an eye out for you as well, but definitely full of emotion in different ways. Many of them express a feeling like an overwhelming urge of protection. They want to make sure, is everything okay? Is the baby okay? Because they go into that mode. Protection mode, warrior mode. But again, emotion. At the foundation of it is emotion, always.
Have you any comments on that? Because we tend to look at men as if they don't have to be emotional or they are not emotional. Do you have a view on that?
Yes, and that's why it's important, I think, to include them from the beginning of the pregnancy. And when I say include them, not just present, but actually ask them, how do you feel about this? What are you feeling? Because a lot of times they have so much fear, even about being present for the birth, because they have scary stories that they've heard. They think it's going to be just a scenario with perhaps a lot of blood, etc. So we need to talk that through during the pregnancy so that they have a sense of what to expect, but that they're also allowed to express what they're feeling. Because I think perhaps if I had to say what the most common feeling was that they express, it's fear. Fear about, is everything going to be okay? Are they going to be able to care for this woman and this baby for the labor and the birth, and then after, as a parent? A lot of pressure. So I think we have to encourage them to express their feelings, but starting from during the pregnancy, and allow it to grow and develop. And then, as I mentioned, to talk about what are their feelings about being present at the birth, because not everybody starts out wanting to be present or ends up wanting to be present. There's sometimes that and when I say them, I mean plural. The woman and her partner may decide that for whatever reason, she doesn't want him present, or he does not want to be present. But we need to talk about that, because a lot of times the reason for that is not justified. The reason for them is that they think it's going to be scary. They don't want to see a baby being born, because then they think they could never have an intimate relationship with that woman again. It changes, their vision of the body parts for different reasons that are quite often not valid and not based in fact. So we need to talk it through.
Okay. And when you say you need to talk it through, that means you and the father.
Me, the father, and the mother. and the mother. So please, I don't want anyone listening to think that we are negating or ignoring the importance of the mother, the role of the mother, her emotions, her feelings. As I say to our clients, when I say you, it becomes you plural. Once you enter that room, it's not you, the woman, you, the man. It's you plural, because they both have to be on the same page about what the plan is. So very, very important. And she is the focus, yes, physically and all of that. But emotionally, we must bring him in as well.
Okay. You said that just last week you witnessed a birth. Tell me, how often do you witness births?
Well, as I said, I've been a midwife for 40 years. I'm trying to retire. But I love my job. It's my passion. And so I'm still doing it. Not as much as I did before, but I would say on average, maybe 3 or 4 times a month now, which is less than I used to. But it's I really love it. I feel that emotion that they're feeling as well, because it doesn't matter how long you've done it for. Each birth is unique, because that baby is never going to be born again with those parents. They're never going to give birth to that baby again. So each experience is so unique and so special.
Yeah. I often reflect on how beautiful children are. And every time you see a child, it's an absolutely beautiful human being. And my reflection often is, how does that person transition from that beauty and being loved by a woman to being involved in crime? And that transition, to me, I have no evidence, but I feel that if more men were involved in the birth of their children, it might impact their whole social impact and their concept of what their role is in a society like ours. Do you have a view on that?
Yes, again, it's well documented, not here or even in the region, because we're not great at research, but in other countries, in the US in particular, there are studies where they have interviewed men in prison, men on drugs, and they have all expressed a common area, which is that they did not grow up in a household with a father. So definitely there is an impact. And father or father figure, but a male figure. So the research shows it well. So yes, I do believe that it contributes to where we are now. It's just there's a general sort of disintegration of the family structure as we knew it. And yes, that female-led households are able to raise, strong families, but the inclusion of a male figure, the research shows, makes a very big difference in them ultimately becoming involved in crime and so on. Because what the studies show is that they see the leaders, the gang leaders and so on, as a father figure, as a male figure that they then want to emulate. So they want to become like them because there isn't somebody in their immediate life that they can, follow as a model.
Wow, that's a very interesting point, because in my head, I'm thinking that if we had more father figures present in the growing up of a child, then we may just have a slightly less impact, slightly less level of crime, because the father figure is so important, and that bothers me, because I think that people who are in their 40s, there aren't enough men. I think a lot of the men have been killed in Trinidad, so that we need to find father figures for people in that generation. But that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk about that. I want to tell me, you were involved in a place where birth happens. Tell me about it.
So I am, 5 of us several years ago founded Mama Toto Resource and Birth Center, which is in Belmont. And our primary focus is taking care of women during their pregnancy and birth, and up to about 6 weeks after they've given birth. And I think although I was a midwife for many years before that, and seeing the role of the family and the partner, I think that's where it really became concretized in my head. Because, for example, we have our visits during the pregnancy are an hour long. Now you can check the baby and blood pressure and so on in, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or so. But then we spend the rest of the time talking about everything, because understanding that everything surrounding them can impact that pregnancy, that birth, and the parenting experience. So during the pregnancy, we start the conversation about, what are you thinking now? What are you thinking about the birth? What are you thinking about the period immediately after the birth? How will you be able to support her? What are your expectations? Because when expectations don't line up, is the beginning of trouble, you know, on either side. So who is going to be there to support you? And then an interesting phenomenon started where we actually have a support group. So we have an NGO arm of Mama Toto that has several support groups. But one of the support groups was for women who had given birth, and not just for our clients, for anyone who wanted to attend. And we would meet once a month. Since COVID, it's become virtual. But the fathers in that group started saying, you know, we would really like to have a group for us with men only, where we can talk about what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and get support from other men who have gone through those experiences. So we started a father support group. So they would come, and the women and the babies would usually be with the women, would be in one room, and the fathers in another room, led by, you know, a couple of people who agreed, who have experience with working with boys and men. And they said, you know, something like the support right after the baby is born. Generally, we have a family member, female family member, sometimes the mother, the woman's mother. And they said it really made them feel as if they were being pushed aside. And not very interesting, you know, because we're thinking, well, this is great support. You know, great support for you and for her. But it was how it was being done, and they felt like they didn't have a role, and they really just felt like they were being sidelined. So something like that would never have come up. But just to go back to when the group started. So we went in as the midwives, and they all sort of looked at me and said, okay, like, you could leave now, you know, because it was not about me being there as a professional. It was truly, they just wanted peer support. They wanted to be able to express how they were feeling and have somebody understand and give them the support that they were looking for. So that has been a really successful group, the father support group. As I said, unfortunately, during COVID, we stopped in person and we have not started it back. So it's a WhatsApp support group, and they do like little workshops and so on. But just, you know, just knowing that you have the support of someone who is a professional in supporting males and boys, but also somebody who's had the experience, who could say, yeah, well, this is what worked or this is what didn't, that type of thing.
Tell me about Mama Toto. What's that word? I don't know.
Right. So sorry, I got completely, you asked me about Mama Toto and I went on. So Mama Toto, it's a Swahili word that means mother and baby, Mama Toto. It's also a little bit of an acronym. We had a little play of Mothers and Midwives Alliance of Trinidad and Tobago. And when we started, we thought, we're going to get some comments. And we get a lot of smirks still if we go somewhere and say, hi, I'm Deborah Lewis from Mama Toto, because, you know, the Toto word in Trinidad and Tobago could be taken in many different directions. So quite often we get a response, but I say, well, that's okay, because now you won't forget us. So we have an NGO arm where we do a lot of community outreach. We have the support groups that I mentioned. Another support group that has been really successful is one for families who've had a loss, a miscarriage or loss, because there isn't really a group that exists for that. So they can call us, they can have one-to-one counseling or group counseling. We do sessions at a home for pregnant adolescents. We do community outreach sessions, educational sessions in schools, that type of thing. And then we have the birth center, which I mentioned, that we care for pregnant women and they can also give birth with us.
So Mama Toto only has one institution, one venue?
Yes, but we don't have the capacity to set up another one, but if anybody is interested, we're happy to share our model with them. and support them. You know, it's quite interesting actually, because we have had interest from somebody in Tobago, somebody in San Fernando, but it has never evolved. But we have helped other countries set up a similar model. We are the only freestanding, meaning we're not connected to a hospital, midwifery-led, meaning only midwives work there, birth center in the Caribbean. There was one in Barbados which closed, and we have just recently supported an obstetrician, a doctor, to restart one in Barbados. We have supported other countries, but usually they don't fully follow our model, meaning midwives only. So Portugal, I mean, we have helped people all over the world. And so it's a little bit sad that we have not seen a replication in Trinidad, or even more within the region, Trinidad and Tobago, I should say, and even more within the region. But we're open and willing. We're very happy. We share freely our model, our proposals, where we were able to source funding. We're very happy to share, because if we can help somebody else start it, then, you know, more options for families.
That is absolutely tremendous. And I heard you say that you all supported someone in Portugal.
Yes, I've even gone to Portugal and done a presentation for a group of midwives there who wanted to set up a birth center alongside a hospital and offer water births, because we offer water births at Mama Toto. So I've gone there. We've really helped people in many countries. Sometimes I reflect on it and think, oh wow, you don't sometimes appreciate how much you've done when you're in it.
Mm-hmm. You talked about a water birth. What is that?
So we have tubs. Women have the option of using the tub for relaxation. You know, water, if you think of getting into a pool or the ocean, water is generally very relaxing, particularly for all of your muscles. And so we have tubs that can be used either for relaxation in labor or to actually give birth. There are muscles, lots of muscles involved in labor. So you get into the tub and you just absolutely relax into it. So women who've had both experiences, a land birth, as we say, or a water birth, have said that, you know, the water birth just feels so much more relaxing and soothing. And the babies are generally a lot more calm, because they're living in a bag of water for 9 months. So it's water to water, but perhaps just a bigger space. So a much more gentle transition for the babies when they're born. And they don't, you know, people worry about if the babies will breathe under the water. They live in water. So, and they don't breathe and they don't stay under for that long. They come out into the water and then we bring their heads out. And that's one of the things that stimulates breathing, is when the air hits the nerves on their face or other parts of their body. And then it makes them take a breath. So they wouldn't usually breathe under at all. So no risk, but there are things that we have to maintain, such as the water temperature, because it cannot be a big shift in temperature. The temperature of the water has to be close to body temperature so that the babies don't feel a big difference.
Okay. I want to go back to the discussion about the fathers. What do you think are some of the common barriers that prevent fathers from being present at birth?
I think lack of information now. I mean, previously it was that they were just not allowed or encouraged. Perhaps still not encouraged as much, but definitely there is the option so that they can be allowed. But I think the information that they need to prepare for it is important. And so that's one of the main barriers. I mentioned earlier what they envision it to be like. You know, they think it's not what you see on TV. It's definitely not what you see on TV with people perfectly made up and, no, it's not that. But it also usually what they have in their head is really not what the reality is. They think of it as really scary and very medical, and it's not. So that's why we need to talk about it, so they have the information, because usually that's the biggest barrier now. There are some women who don't feel that they don't want their partner to see a baby being born out of the birth canal. But that's really, it's not common. It does happen, but not common. But then even so, they don't have to be, as I say, they don't have to be center stage. They can be up at the woman's shoulder so that they're present in the room, but not seeing everything, so up at her head. So when the baby comes out and the baby goes onto her chest, they are at the back there. So they see the baby, they're part of the process, but not actually, seeing all the details. Although I have to tell you, sometimes when we were like, oh, we could see the head coming, then they want to take a little peep. It's such a powerful experience, that you see the top of the baby's head, and then you see more of the baby's head, and the process is just amazing. So most times they can't help themselves. And also, if we are telling women, yes, we're seeing progress, great job, you're doing excellent, keep pushing, follow what your body's feeling. We are the professionals. So yes, they listen to us and they trust us. But when her partner says, oh, I could see the top of the excitement really gets her, and then she becomes more invested in it and understands that yes, she's doing something, yes, she's doing a good job, yes, the baby's going to be born soon. So lots of reasons for them to be there, but again, a decision that they both must agree on, and the level of involvement they must agree on.
Mm-hmm.
I've had fathers who said to me they want their hands to be the first to touch their baby, right? So I say, okay, but I'm not trusting your hands alone. I will put my hands over your hands to guide them, So yes, we've had dads who wanted their hands there to catch the baby. So there's a range of levels that you can be involved in, from being present in the room, not seeing anything, to being very present and seeing everything.
So if you had to advise an expectant father, what would you tell him? He's hesitant, he's unsure about being present. What would you tell him, that expectant father?
Well, first I try to have him express why he's hesitant. What is causing the hesitation? What is he feeling? What stories has he heard? Because many times it's stories that they've heard, or maybe something that they saw that makes them afraid, really, or they feel as if they'll be powerless. They want to be able to take the contractions away from the woman, which, can be uncomfortable or even painful. So they feel really powerless and vulnerable and fearful. So we talk through those things. We talk it through. But he first has to be able to identify what he's feeling, and then he has to be able to express it. And then we can work through, okay, what would work best for you? And maybe the best thing is not to be seeing everything. I don't think I've ever had someone who has ultimately not wanted to be in the room. They might start out saying that they'll be outside. They're like, I'll be in the building, but I'll be outside. I don't want to be there. But when we talk through what they're feeling and their fears and so on, usually not usually, I've never had one that has continued to say they don't want to be there. They may say they don't want to see, but they would be, as I said, at her head, behind her or alongside her. So they're not seeing everything. But I would just want to help them express what they're feeling, which, as we said earlier, in many societies, men are not really allowed to do when they're feeling, anxious and fear and vulnerable. So create a safe space. Create a space where it's okay for them to say exactly what they're feeling, for her to express what she's feeling. And then we come to together. We come to, what the plan is for the actual labor and birth.
Mm-hmm. If you could change one thing to ensure that more fathers are present during birth, what would that be?
I think it would be just to really have them involved from the beginning of the pregnancy. And not just, so yes, some of them do attend the visits, but that's it. They attend the visits. They're not truly involved in the care and in the visits. So I think I would like to see them really be a part of it, an active participant in the visits, where they are involved, where they get to express what they're feeling, in either direction, positive, anxiety, whatever it is, but involved from the very beginning. So by the time we get to the labor and the birth, they're comfortable, they have acknowledged what they're feeling. It's not like smothered in there, waiting to just come up perhaps at the wrong time, but they can feel open and able to express themselves and what they're feeling, so that it just creates a better experience, a more positive experience for everyone. So very involved, not just for the labor, and sometimes, as currently exists in our institutions, only the actual birth, but to be there throughout the pregnancy, to be present during the labor, because the labor is when the woman really needs the support to help her cope with the contractions and so on. So that's what I'd like to see change. Yes, we have in place where they are present for the birth, but many of our institutions don't have the facilities for them to be present for the labor, but that's where they need the support. So that's what I'd like to see change. More than one thing, but so present throughout and then present for the labor.
Tell me a little bit more about not having the facilities to accommodate men at the presence of the birth.
Yes, so some of our institutions, unfortunately, it's a ward with curtains in between. So they cite privacy of the other patients on the ward. I have mixed feelings about that, to be quite honest, because I feel that if you say to someone, the only way that you can be here giving your partner support is, I'm going to put this dot on the floor and don't move. Like, stand on this dot and don't move. If you move, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave, because then you're violating the privacy of the other patients. I think they would stand on that dot, and I know that I'm being a little bit extreme, but it's to make the point that I feel as if sometimes we approach things as why we can't rather than why we can. This is what we have. This is what exists. Let us figure out how we can work with it. And ideally, yes, we want to move towards private rooms. Some of the hospitals have private rooms, so that works well. And that's the ideal. However, given our current situation, we don't have private rooms. So let us figure out how to work with what we have.
So you'd simply see an instruction about how you witness this birth as being a solution?
Short term. Long term is that we need to have adequate facilities, for sure. So we need to prepare them to be present and how to support and for themselves what their role is, the role of the partner, and to have the facilities that can accommodate, which would be private rooms, So that's the long term. But the short term, with what currently exists in labor. Now, for the birth, they're all in a private cubicle or a private room. For the labor is where the challenge is in some of our institutions because it's a ward. But I think we can step back and approach it as, okay, we have a ward, not ideal, privacy, etc. What can we do to help ensure that this woman truly has the support she needs and that this partner is able to be with her, or whoever she chooses as her support person, that that person is able to be with her for the labor, because that's where they really need a lot of support as well.
You know, I'm of the view that in order for us to transform our society, men need to become a little more empathetic and get more involved in things like childbirth. And I wonder if there's data that supports that men's higher level of involvement and their higher level of empathy, and how does that impact there's a lot of violence, domestic violence that happens. We have a lot of crime and all of that. And if those things impact transforming our society, what are your views?
So I don't know of actual research, but I feel relatively confident that some exists out there. But again, from personal experience, I have seen really the appreciation and respect that evolves from them seeing the woman and the experience she goes through for the labor and the birth. So I think, you know, from my perspective, that absolutely it would impact. It would impact that the violence. I mean, when you see a woman go through labor and birth, how could you really then turn around and violate her, you know, physically? I mean, there's several different types of violence, but of course, physical is the most common. You know, how could you? I think it really makes a difference. I've seen men want the woman in labor, not even at the point of birth yet, and they're like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, you know. I mean, not what are they sorry for? This is a part of the process, but I'm saying that to say what they feel, you know, for her and what she's going through. I think it would definitely impact it. And now you'll make me go and look to see what studies I find, because I'm confident that there must be studies that show that. It has to have an impact. It must, because so many men have repeatedly talked about the newfound respect and that they have for this woman. You know, they have some generations of people that have all these fancy things that they do that I think are just a little bit outrageous. But there's something called, what is it? A push gift. That's not the right word, but it's called a push something. I think a push gift, where after you've had a baby, your partner buys this very special gift for you as a thank you and a recognition of you having given birth, you know. But that should be translated to something more like the respect and the honor and, you know, the recognition. It doesn't have to be a physical gift at all, but that's what it's translated to in many of not many, but there's like a generation that has that happening now.
Mm-hmm. We've had a conversation that almost makes an assumption that the parents they work together, they can collaborate and so on. What about situations in which the pregnancy was not one in that, let's say the man agreed that this was a pregnancy and the relationship is not really one that is collaborative? What would happen for the birth of that kind of child?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I've had really many situations. I've had where they actually divorced during the pregnancy, but he was still present in the building because it was still the birth of his child. He was not in the room, and that was their decision when they discussed it, but he wanted to be there. So the baby was born, and then her mom was present with her, and then we took the baby out for him to see. We have had where they were never really in a relationship, but she got pregnant. He was not happy, did not want the pregnancy to proceed. She chose to do that. He was still present, not in the room, but outside of the room. And again, we brought the baby out to him. So still the bonding happened immediately after. You know, not at the moment of birth. Well, I shouldn't say immediately, but shortly after. Not at the moment of birth, but shortly after. And then there are some who choose not to be involved at all. And, you know, that's okay. You can't make somebody be involved if that is their decision for whatever reason behind it. So then we just support that woman with whoever she chooses then to be present with her. So that father may never be involved in that baby's life, unfortunately, you know, because you see, it shouldn't be dependent on whether you have a relationship with the woman or not, right? We talk about co-parenting, that's still your child. And so you should be able to have a relationship with the child and you should be able to co-parent. But again, that's ideal. You know, reality is that we're humans and we're going to end up, the parent's going to end up in a little thing and then it reflects on how they parent the child, unfortunately. But there have been most of the time where the father acknowledges that, yes, we're not in a relationship. We're really not interested in being in a relationship. They still come for visits. Sometimes it's a little tense in the room, but he is present because he is present for his child.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So we're concluding that being present for the birth of your child impacts the kind of future relationship that you would have with both the child and the mother. Have you had any instances where a mother has been raped and what happens at the childbirth?
No, not, I suppose, because we care at Mama Toto, we care for low risk women. Somebody where the child is a product of rape, she probably would be considered high risk. And so she would be referred to the hospital. But for that, I feel like it's the emotional that she really is going to have to cope with. So she would need really counseling throughout the pregnancy because that labor and birth is going to be hard, right? I think what we have had is perhaps women who have experienced abuse, sexual abuse during their pregnancy, and then come in for labor and birth. Sexual abuse outside of the pregnancy. And so when they come into labor and birth, the memories, you know, the language that we use, it's okay, just relax, I'm going to do an exam. But the exam is, you know, an internal exam and could feel like a violation, a reminder of that experience. So when we have clients who have had a history of sexual abuse, you really have to be very sensitive and very careful. And I imagine that would translate to the woman whose pregnancy is as a result of rape. Really very careful emotional and psychological support.
It sounds as if pregnancy seems to require a lot of emotional and psychological support. Is that an assumption? Is that a wrong assumption on my part?
No, not at all. It's, you know, right from the beginning, in early pregnancy, there are a lot of hormonal changes, a lot of hormonal shifts. So you have the physical changes, but also the hormonal changes that can make you feel just this. Last week, I said this and I said, yeah, you know, 1 minute you feel like laughing and then the next minute she's crying and you say, why? And she said, nothing and I don't know. And I said, she really doesn't know. And the father was like, yes, why is that? You know, so understanding, you see the importance of including them from the beginning because he was thinking like, what's wrong, you know, but understanding that it's the hormonal shifts and, you know, that there's a period of transition physically, but also emotionally. So right from the beginning, you need the understanding of the people around you, in particular your partner, that's okay, that's normal. Yes, it can feel a little challenging sometimes, like, Lord, what is she crying for now, you know? But understand that it's normal. So you take a deep breath and you say, this should pass. and I have to support her through it. It's part of the process of early pregnancy. And then you get past that period of transition, and then they're great. And then towards the end, it's heavy, and they might be a little bit emotional again, but the beginning is really where it is. So yes, absolutely, we need to be conscious of that emotional support throughout. Some of it in the beginning, hormonal shifts, but then it's like your body is changing, everything, you're physically it's changing. It's a lot happening during a pregnancy. So yes, emotional. I mean, some people worry about body image. I don't like that, but it's real. We have to keep reminding them it's okay if you gain all this weight and your whole body shifts because you're growing a baby. It's all right. So even that, like, who are we to judge what they feel? It's what they feel. And if that's what they feel, I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it, but I have to respect it. It's what they're feeling. So therefore, I have to help them cope with that. Like I would say, turn your back on the scale so you don't see what your weight is. And I won't tell you what it is, whatever it takes. As I said, I don't have to agree with it, but it's the reality for some people. So we have to help them cope with it and work through it.
All right. Well, we are coming to an end of this interview, and thank you ever so much. But just before we come to that end, tell me, what are the messages you think you'd like people to take away from this conversation?
I think I would really just like us to understand how vital the role of the father is during pregnancy, labor, and birth. I would like us to make sure that they're truly included, not just present, but included where they participate, where they're an active participant in the plan with the woman. So it's a decision, discussion and decision with both of them, and understand that the impact that it has on the relationships with the child, the woman, the family, and ultimately our communities.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there should be any legal requirement or legislative statements so that men have a particular responsibility that is contextualized in terms of the law?
I don't know, because, then it becomes like a legal mandatory thing, but it doesn't have the emotional support. Okay. Yeah, I think we really have to work with them as individuals to help them understand the importance of the role. I think making it a legal requirement, just, it's still, so maybe they do it, but they're not invested in it. Their heart is not in it. They're not emotionally present, which then it wouldn't have the same impact.
Mm-hmm. So you're really saying that you need to be emotionally present and emotionally connected so that when the child is born, there's a further connection.
Yes.
What bothers me about that is that there seems to be so many single parents, women, single in our society, and I'm not sure if the men are taking their responsibility and taking their role. And I would really love to see how could we improve that?
Yeah.
How could we increase that level of responsibility for our young men?
I think we need to do more sessions with young men, starting just like with young women, maybe, schools, primary schools. We need to address it. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about their role. We don't talk about parenting. And so I think we just need to get it earlier, to get to them earlier and talk about it, because I don't think, so we have the legal system that says, they have to pay child support, but that still doesn't have them involved, So I think if we can start early and help boys and young men understand the impact and the role and their responsibilities, I think that's where we should start and focus, and even do things like go into large companies that have a lot of male employees and do a session with them. do a session on what their role as parents should look like, the importance of it, the impact of it. So community outreach, working from different approaches. So companies, schools, community groups, churches, wherever, and really focus on it. We don't have anything like that. We have a lot of other things that we talk about, but we really don't talk about the role of the male.
An interesting conversation. Let us spend a lot more time focusing on the role of the male in terms of the development of our society, and particularly the role of the male as a father, because that is a connection that could make quite a difference. And my bias is that women need to play a stronger role in managing issues in our society. I recently wrote an article and talked about every criminal has a mother, definitely. And what is her role in helping him to not go down that road? Most persons who are involved in crime have a sister. What is her role? Most of them have a partner, a female partner. What is her role? So my conclusion is that women need to have a greater role and take a greater responsibility in transforming our society. And from what you've said, it can happen at the birth. So what is your goodbye words to us?
I just want to confirm what you're saying, that we also need to have the women. So when I talk about men and the role of men, I'm absolutely not negating the role of the females and women in our society. So what I'm saying is not instead of, but as well as. Right? So to bring them in, not for that to be the focus separately, but together. So as a unit.
Thank you ever so much, Deborah Lewis. And the power conversation this morning, we talked about the role of men in the birth of children. And I've been corrected. It's not just the role of men. It is the role of both the mother and the father in ensuring that connection with the child. Thank you ever so much, Deborah, and we'll be in touch again.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.